Chapter 523. When Lu Yi obtained the golden spiritual lot before, he even wanted to use the teleportation array to throw it away, but even if he teleported, the golden spiritual lot was like a maggot in his bones. Once this thing was bestowed, unless one died in battle, there was no way to get rid of it. Therefore, for a cultivator with a low cultivation base, being chosen by heaven's secret and bestowed with a golden spiritual lot was definitely not a good thing. Lu Yi didn't want to get involved with this golden spiritual lot before, but now that the golden spiritual lot was in his hand, he could only continue to hold on to it. It wasn't all bad. As long as he could wait for the time limit to pass, not only could he get a golden spiritual lot, but he could also get a lot of hunting points. He should be able to return to the top of the hunting list. As long as there were enough teleportation arrays, it wouldn't be a big problem to keep this spiritual lot. The only problem was that Lu Yi didn't know how many times the spiritual lot in his hand had exploded. He was sure that it had exploded once, but whether it had exploded before, he wasn't too sure. This kind of thing could only be verified with time. Soon, 3 hours passed. The golden spiritual lot in Lu Ye's arms exploded again. When the strong spiritual power fluctuations swept out, a pillar of light soared into the sky. Even if he hid in the cave, he couldn't hide it. Without hesitation, he activated the teleportation array. But before leaving, Lu Yi slashed out a sword light at the location of the explosion array. After they were teleported away, there was a buzz in the cave and flames were everywhere. Not long after, some cultivators were attracted only to see a mess. Other than that, there were no clues. 200 miles away, on another teleportation array, Lu Yi and others appeared. He flashed out immediately, burrowing into the ground to check the surroundings. Soon she sent a message back. There was no one around. Everyone waited in peace. Another 3 hours passed, and the spiritual lot exploded for the second time. Just like before, they activated the teleportation array again and quickly left, leaving a mess behind. Arriving at the new teleportation array, Yi went to check the surroundings again. Lu Yi began to adjust the teleportation array, checking the connection between the array under his feet and other teleportation arrays. There was only one teleportation array that could be connected. The spiritual lot in his hand had already exploded twice. Counting the first explosion, it had already exploded 3 times. But the light blue light on the spiritual lot didn't disappear, which meant that the time limit was not up. In other words, there was still one last time. The teleportation array had to be able to connect at least 2 places to be considered safe. After all, no one could be sure that the other teleportation array would not be discovered and destroyed while they were waiting. If that was the case, then they wouldn't be able to use the teleportation formation to escape when the spirit lot erupted for the last time. In such a situation, they could only take the risk and set up more teleportation arrays. After speaking to Li Baxin, Lu Yi concealed himself and snuck out of the cave. He randomly chose a direction and headed off. Li Baxin and the others couldn't help in this matter. They couldn't even follow Lu Yi. They could only stay here and wait for news from Lu Yi. A distance of 200 kilometers wasn't too far, but Lu Yi had to hide his tracks and be vigilant at all times, so he couldn't travel too fast. Moreover, he had to find a suitable location to set up the formation. Only after more than 2 hours did he find a place to set up the formation. There wasn't enough time to set up a second one, so Lu Yi could only teleport back to Li Baxin's side to meet up with him. He quietly waited. Another 2 hours later, the spirit lot in his bosom erupted as expected. A pillar of light shot up into the sky, and spiritual energy surged. Lu Yi and the other 2 disappeared from the teleportation array. In the blink of an eye, the 3 appeared on the new teleportation array set up by Lu Yi. After confirming that the surroundings were safe, Lu Yi quickly took out the spirit lot in his bosom and found that the light blue light on the spirit lot had disappeared. He finally breathed a sigh of relief and put it into his storage space. At the same time, on the hunting list, Lu Ye's name, who was originally ranked 3rd, suddenly jumped up 2 places and returned to the 1st place. This time, his hunting points increased by more than 750 points. The total had exceeded 7,000 points, more than 200 points higher than the 2nd place, Tan Xing. Somewhere in the hunting ground, Tan Xing, dressed in a green robe, looked up at the changes on the hunting list and frowned. He secretly sighed. Lu Ye's luck was so good that he gained so many hunting points at once. Obviously, it wasn't because of killing enemies, but because of the special golden spirit lot. It was the same last time. This guy gained 1,000 hunting points and directly climbed to the first place on the hunting list. In half a month, this person had obtained 2 golden spirit lots in a row. Such luck was really enviable. He had vaguely heard that Lu Ye was from the War Province's Blue Blood sect and was wanted by many sects in Myriad Demon Ridge. Recently, many masters in the hunting ground had been searching for his whereabouts, but unfortunately, they hadn't found anything yet. 200 hunting points wasn't a big gap, but it wasn't easy to catch up. This guy's cultivation was low, but his efficiency in obtaining hunting points was much higher than his, which was really a headache. With his ranking overtaken, Lu Yi could only think of ways to obtain more hunting points. The difference between the reward for first place and second place was a grade A spring spirit. He was now in the 9th order and would soon break through to the true lake realm and leave the Cloud River battlefield. A grade A spring spirit wasn't very valuable to him, but he still had many junior brothers and junior sisters who needed it, so he couldn't miss it no matter what. Just as he was thinking this, a message suddenly came from his battlefield mark. Tan Sheng checked it and found that it was a message from one of his junior brothers. The message was very simple. Someone had contacted him and asked him to pass on a message to Tan Sheng, saying that they wanted to meet in the hunting ground. Tan Sheng was now focused on obtaining more hunting points and surpassing Lu Ye, so how could he have the time to meet with anyone? Moreover, this person's cultivation couldn't be high. Just as he was about to refuse, the next message made his eyes light up. He immediately replied, "Is that person sure?" The junior brother replied, "That's what the other party said, but I don't know if it's true or not. If the other party really has that thing, they can indeed do this. Ask them where they are now." A moment later, the junior brother replied and gave Tan Sheng a location. Tan Sheng took out the 10,000 treasure map and checked it. He found that the location wasn't close to him. Even with his cultivation, it would take him half a day to get there. He immediately said, "Tell them to wait for me there. I'll go over now." After ending the message, Tan Sheng soared into the sky, turned into a stream of light, and rushed to the agreed location. At the same time, 2 figures were quietly lying dormant on a spirit peak. If Lu Yi was here, he would definitely recognize them. These 2 people were the 2 brothers, Jiang Lu Zi and Jiang Qing Zi. The 2 of them were in a rather sorry state at the moment. There were many injuries on their bodies, which were obviously caused by fighting with others. Both of them were in the 5th order, and they weren't weak. In the Cloud River realm, they were also existences who could kill enemies above their realm. During this time, they had been searching for various opportunities in the hunting ground under the lead of the cultivator named Lu Shu. At the same time, they were also looking for traces of Lu Yi. In the beginning, their luck was pretty good. They obtained some opportunities and hunted some cultivators from Grand Heaven Alliance. They obtained a lot of trophies, but they couldn't find Lu Ye's whereabouts. If this continued, they could barely accept it. However, just yesterday, the situation suddenly took a turn for the worse. The 3 of them encountered a Grand Heaven Alliance master, and that Grand Heaven Alliance master had a grudge against their sect. When they met face to face, they naturally fought. Although Lu Shu's cultivation wasn't weak, as he was in the 8th order, he wasn't that person's opponent because that person's cultivation was 1 realm higher than Lu Shu's. Under normal circumstances, it wasn't easy for a 9th order to kill an 8th order. At this level, if Lu Shu wanted to escape, there was a high chance that that person wouldn't be able to kill him. However, there was a blood feud between them, and Lu Shu had to take care of the 2 of them. He could only be forced to fight and let the 2 of them escape first. When they escaped to a safe place, they discovered that Lu Shu's battlefield mark had disappeared. In other words, senior brother Lu Shu had died in battle. This made the 2 brothers feel very uncomfortable. They both felt that they had harmed their senior brother. They couldn't even talk about revenge. The other party was in the 9th order and wasn't someone they could fight against. They immediately made up their mind to hide until the end of the hunting ground. However, the Grand Heaven Alliance master was searching for traces of them nearby, causing them to be on tenterhooks, afraid that they would be discovered. They had no choice but to seek help from a master. However, the masters in the hunting ground were all competing for the hunting list. Who would help them for no reason? Jiang Liuzi chose Tan Xing because Tan Xing was strong enough to protect their safety. As for the bargaining chip to ask Tan Xing to help, the two brothers also had it. It was also a stroke of luck. Just half a day ago, a white light suddenly appeared in their hiding place. It was an opportunity scattered by heaven's secret. From the white light, the two brothers obtained an item. With this item, the two brothers were sure that Tan Xing would definitely help. After some consideration, they found someone to help pass a message to Tan Xing. At this moment, they were waiting for the news. Suddenly, a message came, and Jiang Liuzi hurriedly checked it. Jiang Qingzi asked, "How is it?" Jiang Liuzi nodded. Tan Xing agreed, "But he is a little far from here. It will take about half a day." "That's good. Heaven never bars one's way." The two of them didn't expect that they would obtain such an item from an opportunity scattered by heaven's secret when they were in a desperate situation. Which was more valuable, the reward from the hunting list or Lu Ye's life? For the cultivators of Myriad Demon Ridge, there was no doubt that it was the latter. Even if Tan Xing was now in the awkward position of second place on the hunting list, if he could really kill Lu Yi, he would immediately rush over. As long as he could kill Lu Yi, not only would he be able to return to first place on the hunting list, but he would also receive a lot of rewards. It could be said to be killing two birds with one stone. For the many cultivators of Myriad Demon Ridge who wanted to kill Lu Yi, the most troublesome thing right now was to find his traces. If they couldn't even find him, how could they kill him? However, the item obtained by Jiang Liuzi and Jiang Qingzi could accurately determine Lu Ye's current location, which was why Tan Xing hurried over. To be continued. Chapter 524. Half a day later, Tan Xing, dressed in a blue robe, appeared on the Spirit Peak. He had rushed all the way here because he was afraid he would be late. The hunting ground had been open for half a month and could close at any time. Once the hunting ground closed, even if he obtained that thing, it might not be of much use. Moreover, once the hunting ground closed, the rankings on the hunting list would be fixed, and many rewards would be issued at once. Standing in the air, he took out the 10-minute map and checked it. After confirming that this was the agreed location, he immediately sent out a message. After waiting for a while, he received a reply. After checking it, he whispered, "Sun and moon in the sky, two rivers parallel." He cursed in his heart, "What kind of secret code is this?" As soon as he finished speaking, he saw two figures walking out of their hiding place below. His figure flickered and he rushed over, instantly landing in front of the two men. Jiang Liuzi stepped forward and cupped his fists. "Are you senior brother Tan Xing?" They had never seen Tan Xing before, so they didn't know what he looked like. However, the secret code was correct, and his cultivation corresponded to it, so it shouldn't be wrong. Tan Xing nodded. "That's me." "Where is it?" Jiang Liuzi took out a compass-like object from his storage bag. The compass-like object looked quite old and was extremely simple. Moreover, the compass-like object itself didn't have any spiritual energy fluctuations. If such an object was encountered in the wild, no one would take a second look at it. However, this compass-like object was the key to accurately finding Lu Ye's whereabouts. It was also an opportunity obtained by Jiang Liuzi and his brother before. "Give it to me." Tan Xing stretched out his hand. This object looked no different from the rumored one, but whether it was real or not, he still had to verify it. Jiang Liuzi shook his head and said, "Senior brother Tan, our cultivation base is not high and we have offended a powerhouse from the Haoyan Alliance. Now that we are in a precarious situation, we need senior brother Tan to protect us." This object definitely couldn't be given to Tan Xing. If they really gave it to him, he wouldn't take them with him. Only by holding this object could they ensure their own safety. As for asking Tan Xing to help avenge senior brother Lu Shu, that was simply unrealistic. Tan Xing was a ninth-order master, but the person who killed senior brother Lu Shu was also a ninth-order master. Everyone's cultivation was the same, so even if Tan Xing agreed, he didn't have the ability to do so, so Jiang Liuzi simply didn't mention it. As for the matter of revenge, they would do it themselves. Both of them were talented and had the confidence to surpass the enemy who killed senior brother Lu Shu in terms of cultivation. When the time came, they would teach him a lesson. In addition, if we can really kill Lu Ye, we want 40% of the reward. Jiang Liuzi made another request. A cold glint flashed across Tan Xing's eyes. Your appetites aren't small. Aren't you afraid of being stuffed? Jiang Liuzi spoke with fervor and assurance. Senior Martial Brother Tan must have heard of the bounty offered by the various sects in the Myriad Demon's Ridge. With such a huge amount of resources, even if you give us 40%, it will be enough for Senior Martial Brother Tan to enjoy for a lifetime. Almost every first grade, second grade, and third grade sect had offered a bounty for Lu Ye. The bounty offered by any one of them wasn't small, so it was hard to imagine how much it would be when added together. Hearing this, Tan Xing remained expressionless. After a while, he said, "Give me the things and I'll give you 40%. Jiang Liuzi shook his head. "I want to use it myself." The most important thing right now was to follow Tan Xing. Only then could they borrow his power to prevent the Grand Heaven Alliance Master from acting rashly. Otherwise, if Tan Xing took the things and ran away, leaving the two of them behind, they wouldn't be able to resist at all. If they died, they would lose everything. Therefore, even though Jiang Liuzi felt that Tan Xing was getting impatient, he couldn't relent. As for whether Tan Xing would rob them directly, the probability wasn't high. They were all from the Myriad Demon's Ridge. Tan Xing had no reason to do such a tasteless thing. Even if he did rob them, he could make the compass in his hand lose its effect before he did so. At that time, no one would benefit from it. Seeing that Tan Xing was still hesitating, Jiang Liuzi said, "Senior Martial Brother Tan, the hunting ground has been open for half a month. It might close at any time. If that's the case, Senior Martial Brother Tan won't be able to count on the reward for the first place on the hunting list. Moreover, once the hunting ground closes, even with this item, we might not be able to kill Lu Ye. Putting everything else aside, if that guy hid in the Tianji Merchant Union or returned to the 9 prefectures, where could they kill him?" Tan Xing finally relented. 20%. You can use it. I'll take you with me. Jiang Liuzi frowned. However, it wasn't good for him to bargain anymore. 20% of the bounty was enough for the two of them. He immediately nodded. "All right. Let's begin," Tan Xing urged. Jiang Liuzi immediately raised his hand and bit his fingertip. Then, with his blood, he wrote the words Lui on one side of the compass. The dark red blood was quickly absorbed by the compass, and the ancient compass immediately bloomed with light. The needle in the middle of the compass spun wildly, and in just a moment, the needle suddenly stopped and pointed in a certain direction. At the same time, a blood-red light rushed out of the compass and quickly swept in that direction, disappearing without a trace. "It's really the rumored item." Tan Xing's eyes lit up. "With this item, Lu Ye won't be able to escape." "Let's go!" Tan Xing shouted and took the lead to fly in that direction. Jiang Liuzi and his brother followed closely behind. Somewhere on the ground, a figure was watching quietly. It was the expert from the Haotian Alliance who had killed Lu Shu. He had been searching for traces of Jiang Liuzi and his brother nearby. Unfortunately, the two of them hid very well, and he couldn't find them. Until now, the two brothers took the initiative to reveal themselves. However, there was a 9th order beside them, which made him feel quite helpless. "Tan Xing?" The man whispered softly, "When did New Moon Sect and Eternal Heaven Sect get together?" Tan Xing was from New Moon Sect, while Jiang Liuzi and his brother were from Eternal Heaven Sect. They were both big sects in Myriad Demon Ridge. "I don't understand." "Forget it. It's just 2 5th order. If I can't kill them, I won't kill them." At the same time, in another part of the hunting ground, Lu Yi, who was hiding in the dark, suddenly frowned. Just now, he felt an inexplicable throbbing in his heart, as if someone was secretly monitoring him. This made his heart tremble. He hid his body with the help of the concealment spirit tattoo, which was similar to the concealment of ghost cultivators. He didn't dare to say that his concealment was perfect, but if someone wanted to see through his concealment, their cultivation had to be at least 7th order and above. Moreover, they had to be close enough to him. "Is someone lurking around me?" Lu Yi was secretly shocked. He hurriedly activated his Insight Spirit tattoo to enhance his eyes and looked around. In the end, he found nothing. There were no traces of anyone lurking around. Thinking about it for a moment, Lu Yi turned his head and whispered to. He immediately flew out of Hu Po's body and dove into the ground to search around. After a stick of incense worth of time, he returned and slowly shook her head at Lu Yi. She carefully searched the surrounding 5,000 meters but found nothing. At this time, the inexplicable feeling of being watched suddenly disappeared, which made Lu Yi very puzzled. Was it just an illusion? Lu Yi calmed his mind and probed for a while to make sure there was nothing strange. However, after obtaining the Golden Spirit tag, his luck wasn't very good. After lying in ambush for half a day, he still didn't gain anything. Looking up at the hunting list, Lu Yi didn't know why Tan Xing's hunting points had stopped moving for a long time. It was very strange. This caused the gap between the third place and Tan Xing to be constantly narrowed. By now, that person was less than 100 hunting points behind Tan Xing. Time passed by, and after more than an hour, Lu Yi suddenly felt that he was being watched again, and this time, the feeling was much stronger than before. His face became dignified. Something was not right. If it was only once, he could say it was an illusion, but now it was happening again. What was this? He quickly constructed his Insight Spirit inscriptions and scanned his surroundings, but still found nothing. However, he instinctively felt that something was wrong, as if he continued to stay here, a great crisis would descend. Thinking so, Lu Yi quickly sent a message to Li Baxian, telling him to prepare to evacuate. Whether or not someone was secretly monitoring him, there was nothing wrong with being careful. Just as he was sending a message to Li Baxian, more than 10 kilometers away, 3 figures were rushing over under the guidance of the compass. As the distance between them grew closer, the light on the compass gradually became red and its color became deeper. He's nearby. Jiang Liuzi's eyes flashed with joy. The hunting ground was so big that he thought that even with the guidance of this compass, it would take some effort to find Lu Yi, but he hadn't expected the distance between them to be so small. It only took them a little more than an hour to arrive. This was really a pleasant surprise. On the ground, Lu Yi and Li Baxian finished communicating and were about to pack up their array flags and leave when 3 streams of light suddenly appeared in their field of vision. The spiritual energy fluctuations of the leader were extremely powerful, indicating that he was a 9th order cultivator. 9th order cultivators are starting to act together. Lu Yi was secretly shocked, but when he probed the spiritual energy fluctuations of the two, he found that they were only 5th order cultivators. He guessed that these 3 probably belonged to the same sect, otherwise, it wouldn't make sense for a 9th order cultivator to bring 2 5th order cultivators with him. Seeing the 3 streams of light fly over his head, before Lu Yi could breathe a sigh of relief, the 3 streams of light suddenly stopped. In the air, Jiang Liuzi held the compass and looked at the needle that suddenly changed. He shouted in a low voice, "They're down there!" Tan Xing's eyes lit up and he immediately flew down, followed by Jiang Liuzi and his brother. The moment they landed, Jiang Qingzi disappeared. He was a ghost cultivator, so he had his own means of concealment. At this time, Lu Yi was staring at Jiang Qingzi. He never expected that in this hunting ground, not only would he meet Wei Kei, but also these 2 brothers. They were really haunting him. What made Lu Yi even more vigilant was the compass in Jiang Liuzi's hand. As he continued to approach, the warning in Lu Ye's heart became stronger and stronger. Somehow, that compass seemed to have some inexplicable connection with him. For some reason, Lu Yi always felt that these 3 were looking for him. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense for them to land after flying over. Moreover, Jiang Liuzi was obviously looking for something with the help of that compass. To be continued. Chapter 525. Jiang Liuzi, who was holding the compass, stood 300 meters away from Lu Yi. The light on the compass had turned blood red, and the needle stopped moving. Jiang Liuzi raised his head and shouted, "It's right ahead!" As soon as his voice fell, Lu Ye's figure appeared, and with the support of wind travel, his figure rushed out like a bolt of lightning, unsheathing his mountain-coiling saber and slashing towards Jiang Liuzi. He didn't know what the compass was, but he was sure that he had been exposed, and it had something to do with it. The other party should have used the compass to accurately find him. Since that's the case, I'll snatch this compass. Jiang Liuzi was obviously startled by the flash of the saber. He had suffered a loss at Lu Ye's hands before and knew how strong Lu Yi was, so he instinctively retreated a few steps in the face of this saber. Tan Sheng, who was standing next to him, took action, and a fierce surge of spiritual energy blasted towards Lu Yi. The blow of a ninth-order master was terrifying, and Lu Ye's rushing figure was directly blasted away, the blood qi in his chest and abdomen tumbling. Midair, Lu Yi stretched out his hand and grasped at the void, summoning an array flag and waving it. 8 pillars of light shot up into the sky, resonating with each other. In an instant, a semicircular light curtain covered a radius of several hundred meters like an inverted bowl. Lu Yi fell out of the light curtain without any hindrance, but Tan Sheng, who had taken advantage of the momentum to chase after him, was blocked by the light curtain. An entrapment array. Tan Sheng was surprised. He didn't expect the other party to have arranged an entrapment array here in advance. Caught off guard, he was directly trapped inside. Asterisk schwa schwa. Asterisk 2 more sounds rang out as Li Baxin and Feng Yuchan, who had been hiding nearby, shot up into the sky. Lu Yi had even used an entrapment array, so the two naturally didn't hesitate. Knowing that it was time to run, they hurried to keep up with Lu Ye's pace. Seeing the 3 turn into 3 streams of light and rush off into the distance, a trace of regret flashed across Tan Sheng's eyes. He was so close to killing Lu Yi, but the other party had arranged an entrapment array here to trap him, so there was nothing he could do. The spell technique began to rumble as it slammed into the light barrier, causing it to ripple and dim rapidly. Although Lu Yi wouldn't be able to escape as long as Jiang Liuzi had the compass in hand, it was best to resolve this matter as soon as possible. Lu Yi was only a 3rd-order origin realm cultivator, so if he accidentally encountered another myriad demon ridgemaster while escaping, he might be taken advantage of. Even Wei Kei wouldn't be able to trap such a trapping array for long, let alone Tan Sheng. In less than 20 breaths of time, the light curtain of the entrapment array completely dimmed, and Tan Sheng and Jiang Liuzi soared into the sky, rushing straight in the direction of Lu Yi and the others. A moment later, a person appeared in front of them. It was Jiang Qingzi, who had hidden himself before. Fortunately, Yang Kai was not trapped by the entrapment array, so after Lu Yi and the others fled, he followed them all the way. However, he did not dare to get too close. He was alone while the other party had 3 people. If Lu Yi and the others discovered his whereabouts, he would not have a good ending. Over there. I saw them fall in that direction. Jiang Qingzi pointed to a certain direction. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a sudden burst of buzzing sound in the direction he pointed, followed by a burst of flames. Jiang Qingzi was taken aback. Why did he feel that this scene was somewhat familiar? It was as if he had seen it somewhere before. Tan Sheng had already rushed over, and Jiang Liuzi and his brother followed closely behind. However, after rushing a few dozen meters, Jiang Liuzi suddenly stopped in surprise and called out, "Senior brother Tan, wait." Tan Sheng hurriedly stopped and asked impatiently, "What's wrong?" According to the instructions on this, Lu Yi is in that direction. Jiang Liuzi stared at the compass in his hand and raised his hand to point in a direction. The direction he pointed to was obviously different from the direction of the source of the flames. "Didn't you say they fell in that direction?" Tan Sheng frowned and looked at Jiang Qingzi. Jiang Qingzi said, "Yes, I saw it with my own eyes." "Is there something wrong with this thing?" Jiang Liuzi was also confused. He believed his brother's words, but the compass in his hand was pointing in another direction, which was really strange. "We'll know once we take a look." Tan Sheng quickly made a decision. Regardless of the direction of the compass, the source of the flames was only a few kilometers away, so it wouldn't take much effort to investigate. Since he had made up his mind, Jiang Liuzi and his brother naturally didn't say anything. Soon, the 3 of them arrived at a messy cave. Jiang Qingzi looked at this cave and felt that this scene was becoming more and more familiar. 200 kilometers away, on another transmission array, Lu Yi, who had escaped through the transmission array, had a heavy heart. He was being targeted, and one of them was a ninth order master. What he couldn't figure out now was what the use of the compass in Jiang Liuzi's hand was, and why he felt a strange connection with it. As if knowing what Lu Yi was thinking, Li Baxian said, "Little junior brother, that's a tracing plate." Tracing plate? Lu Yi frowned. Just by hearing the name of this thing, he vaguely guessed its function. It's an extremely rare treasure that has the function of finding and locating people. The user writes the name of the person they want to locate with their blood, and the tracing plate will give them a clear direction. I've only heard of this thing and have never seen it before. They were actually willing to use such a rare treasure on me. Interesting. Judging from the current situation, the tracing plate should be Jiang Liuzi's, otherwise, it wouldn't make sense for him to be holding it. When he was exposed before, Lu Yi wanted to snatch the tracing plate from the other party's hands, but he failed. If he had been able to snatch it just now, the crisis would have been resolved. So, with this tracing plate, they can find me at any time? Li Baxian's voice was dignified. Yes. What kind of enmity, what kind of grievance? In fact, he didn't have much personal grievances with Jiang Liuzi and his brother. They had only fought over the ownership of the spirit lands before, but it turned out that the other party was still attached to him and had even found a ninth order master to help them. It was clear that they were determined to kill him. From the other party's standpoint, Lu Yi could understand. After all, his life was related to a huge bounty, and this bounty had been on his back since he was a fifth-order spirit stream realm cultivator. Understanding was one thing, but in the end he was still a little angry. That ninth-order master is Tan Sheng from New Moon Sect. He has an extraordinary background. He's Tan Sheng? Lu Yi was surprised. On the hunting list, they were both ranked first and second, but he had never seen Tan Sheng before and didn't know what he looked like. He didn't expect the Jiang Liuzi and his brother to find this guy to help them. It seemed that this guy not only wanted the bounty, but also the #1 spot on the hunting list. As long as he could kill him, all the benefits would be his. It wasn't surprising that Li Baxian could recognize him. After all, he had been on the Spirit Stream battlefield for so many years and had seen off batch after batch of Spirit Stream realm cultivators. To be able to be evaluated by him as having an extraordinary background, he must be a master who had once been on the Spirit Stream list. Little junior brother, we can't stay here for long. With the tracing plate, the other party will soon find us. We have to leave quickly. 200 kilometers was really nothing to a ninth-order Cloud River realm cultivator. If they went all out, it wouldn't take long for them to find them. Lu Yi nodded and called out softly, "Fourth senior brother, senior sister Feng." Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan both looked at him. Kong. The mountain coiling saber was unsheathed, and a fiery red saber light flashed, slashing out a crescent-shaped arc. Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan instinctively jumped back. But in the next moment, Li Baxian's face changed and he shouted, "Little junior brother." To be continued. Chapter 526. Just as Feng Yuchan said, Lu Yi wasn't acting on a whim. He had already made some plans when he set out on the road of escape alone. Of course, the most important thing was that he didn't want to implicate them. A ninth-order master like Tan Sheng wasn't someone the three of them could deal with together. If he wanted to find a way out, he had to try his best to hold on while being hunted down. As long as the hunting ground could be closed, he could set off to the nearest Heavenly Secret Commerce Union. Once there, he would be safe. The hunting ground could close at any time, so what Lu Yi needed to do now was delay as much as possible. After communicating with Li Baxian, Lu Yi immediately used the transmission array several times to increase the distance between himself and Tan Sheng as much as possible. After 4 such transmissions, the distance between them had increased by a few hundred kilometers. On the last teleportation array, Lu Yi couldn't find any more teleportation points. Although he had arranged a lot of transmission arrays, most of them had been damaged during this period, so not many were preserved. Without hesitation, Lu Yi stepped out of the cave where the teleportation point was located and took to the air on his tool, heading in the opposite direction from where he had come from. He didn't dare to fly too high, nor did he dare to make too much noise. In this hunting ground, Tan Sheng wasn't his only enemy. All the cultivators of Myriad Demon Ridge were his enemies. Lu Ye's perception was stimulated to the maximum, and his mind was always on the lookout for any movement. After more than an hour, Lu Yi stopped and began to arrange new transmission arrays. Enough transmission arrays was his guarantee to deal with Tan Sheng and the others, so he had to arrange as many as possible. While he was arranging the transmission arrays, several hundred kilometers away, Tan Sheng and Jiang Luzi were following the guidance of the tracing plate and hurrying over. Tan Sheng was a powerful ninth-order cultivator, so he naturally wasn't as cautious as Lu Yi, so he was much faster than Lu Yi. When Lu Yi finished arranging the transmission arrays, the distance between them was less than 400 kilometers. However, Tan Sheng's expression wasn't very good, because he hadn't found any trace of Lu Yi. It didn't make sense at all. No matter how fast a third-order cultivator was, it was impossible for him to be faster than him. He had been delayed by the trapping array for less than 20 breaths, so there was no reason why he couldn't catch up. If it wasn't for the tracing disc pointing in that direction, he would have suspected that there was something wrong with it. As the distance between them decreased, the light on the tracking disc began to turn red. The closer they got, the deeper the red color became. Until a certain moment, Jiang Liuzi, who had been paying attention to the tracking disc, suddenly said, "Within 10 miles." At the same time, on the teleportation array, Lu Yi, who had been meditating with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. The strong feeling of being watched came again. In other words, the other party was very close to his current position. So fast. Without any hesitation, Lu Yi activated the teleportation formation and vanished. Then, without stopping, he teleported back to his original location. Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan had already disappeared. After Lu Yi left, it was meaningless for the two of them to continue staying here. Furthermore, they were unable to activate the transmission array. If they were blocked by experts here, they wouldn't even have the chance to escape. Therefore, not long after Lu Yi left, they left this place. At this moment, they were quietly lurking in a hidden place, waiting for the hunting ground to close. Like Lu Yi, they were used to being hunted and were well versed in the art of concealment. What's more, Feng Yuechan still had the spirit umbrella. As long as they weren't too unlucky and were directly exposed, their safety was assured. In midair, Jiang Liuzi, who was staring at the tracking disc, suddenly stopped after saying that sentence. He looked at the compass in his hand with puzzlement. The compass, which was originally blooming with a dark red light, had now returned to its original appearance. Moreover, the needle, which was originally pointing forward, was now pointing backward. What was going on? Jiang Liuzi was completely confused. What's wrong? Tan Sheng, who was flying in front, noticed that something was wrong and stopped. Senior brother Tan, the needle's direction has changed. Jiang Liuzi braced himself and said, "It changed again?" Tan Sheng's face sank. He hurriedly stepped forward to check and found that the needle's direction had indeed changed. At this moment, it was pointing in the direction they came from. He frowned and pondered for a moment, then looked at Jiang Liuzi and asked, "Has this tracking disc been damaged?" Although the tracking disc was a treasure, it wasn't sturdy. If it was damaged, it was very likely to be damaged, and then it would lose its tracking ability. Hearing Tan Sheng's question, Jiang Liuzi knew that not only did he suspect that the tracking disc was damaged, but Tan Sheng also had such doubts. "It hasn't been damaged." Jiang Liuzi shook his head. Jiang Qingzi said, "Senior brother Tan, there should be no problem with the tracking disc. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to accurately pinpoint Lu Ye's position. The problem may be with Lu Ye." Tan Sheng thought in his heart. This made sense. Previously, they had used the tracking disc to find Lu Ye, but unfortunately, they were blocked by his confinement array and couldn't kill him. Since they could find Lu Ye, there should be no problem with the tracking disc. "What do you mean?" "I don't know, but I think he might have some means to teleport hundreds of miles in an instant." What a joke! Which Cloud River tier cultivator has such a heavenly method? Then he must have used some kind of treasure? If that wasn't the case, there was no way to explain why Lu Ye's movements were so strange. The tracking disc was clearly in front, and they were about to approach him, but he suddenly ran behind. Tan Sheng frowned and pondered. He had to admit that although Jiang Qingzi's deduction was unrealistic, it was the explanation that was most in line with the current situation. Lu Ye came from the Jade Blood sect of the War Province. More than 30 years ago, it was a great overlord sect of the 9 provinces. Even if it had declined now, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Who knew what kind of hidden resources it had? It was not impossible to say that it had some kind of treasure that could teleport hundreds of miles in an instant. However, Tan Xing had never heard of such a treasure, so it was difficult for him to be sure. If he has used some kind of treasure, then he definitely can't use it frequently. Senior Brother Tan, I think we only need to continue to track him and not give him a chance to shake us off. Sooner or later, we will be able to catch him. Continue to chase him. Tan Xing was annoyed and immediately changed direction, returning to the way they came. On the hunting list, his ranking had already dropped to 3rd place, which made him very depressed. He thought that with the help of the tracing plate, he could easily deal with Lu Ye. In this way, not only would he get a large bounty, but the 1st place on the hunting list would also be his. As a result, not only did he fail to kill Lu Ye, but his ranking on the hunting list had also fallen. However, at this point, it was no longer possible for him to obtain hunting points and compete for the hunting list. Compared to the rewards on the hunting list, the reward for killing Lu Ye was undoubtedly more attractive. A day later, in a valley, Tan Xing and the other 2 sat cross-legged, silently recovering. The expressions of the Jiang brothers were not good, and Tan Xing's face was so gloomy that it was about to drip water. There was no other reason. Over the past day and night, they followed the guidance of the tracing plate and went back and forth on the same route. They ran back and forth more than a dozen times, but in the end, they did not even see the shadow of Lu Ye. Often, when they were about to approach the target, the direction of the needle suddenly reversed, and they had to change direction to continue tracking. Even if Tan Xing was a 9th-order cultivator, after a day and night of tracking, he was about to collapse. The Jiang brothers were even more exhausted, and their faces were pale. If they did not recover, they were afraid that they would not even have the spiritual energy to fly on their artifacts. Why couldn't they find Lu Ye? The 3 of them could not figure it out even after racking their brains. Did Lu Ye really have some kind of treasure that could teleport him hundreds of miles in an instant? If that was the case, then they would never be able to catch him. With such a treasure by his side, as long as he wasn't completely surrounded, he would be able to easily escape. But did such a treasure really exist in this world? The Jiang brothers looked at each other and inexplicably felt a little guilty. They were the ones who dragged Tan Xing into this mess. They thought that they could do him a favor and get some benefits, but now they did not get any benefits, and the 3 of them were played like monkeys. On the hunting list, Tan Xing's ranking had fallen to 4th place, and Lu Ye had also fallen to 2nd place. As time passed, they continued to fall. One was chasing, and the other was escaping. How could they have the time to get any hunting points? Tan Xing sat aside and raised his hand to touch his battlefield mark. It seemed that he was communicating with someone. After a while, he looked up at Jiang Liuzi and stretched out his hand. "Give me the tracking plate." Jiang Liuzi immediately understood his plan. Senior Brother Tan wants to use its other ability? Tan Xing nodded. Is there any other way to find Lu Ye? But in this way, the person who killed Lu Ye may not be Senior Brother Tan. As soon as Jiang Liuzi finished speaking, he immediately reacted. Senior Brother Tan, were you contacting other masters in the hunting ground? Tan Xing nodded. I've already spread the news and made an agreement with them. In the end, no matter who kills Lu Ye, I'll get 20% of the reward. You guys will get 20% of the benefits from me. In the previous agreement, the 2 brothers would get 20% of the reward, but according to the current agreement, they would only get 20% of the 20%. The gap could be imagined. Jiang Liuzi was naturally a little unwilling and said, Senior Brother Tan, we don't have to go this far. There's no time. Tan Xing interrupted him. The hunting ground has been open for 17 days and may close at any time. If we can't kill Lu Ye before the hunting ground closes, then all our previous efforts will be in vain. Moreover, I have already spread the news and they are all waiting. I will give you 20%, which is not a small amount. Don't be greedy. He had gambled the rewards of the hunting list to get involved in this matter. Now that his ranking on the hunting list was constantly falling, he could no longer count on the 1st and 2nd place rewards. Such a loss could only be made up for by killing Lu Ye. Jiang Liuzi sighed. He knew that since Tan Sheng had said so, it was useless for him to persuade him. Even if he was unwilling, he could only offer the tracking plate. Chapter 527. Taking the tracing disc, Tan Sheng looked at the pointer on the disc with an indifferent expression. If he could take all the benefits alone, why would he want to share them with others? But now that things had developed to this point, it was impossible for the three of them to find Lu Ye's whereabouts. In just one day, they had gone back and forth on the same route more than a dozen times, but they still hadn't seen Lu Ye's shadow. If this continued, once the hunting ground closed, Lu Ye would inevitably escape. He sighed in his heart, feeling extremely regretful. 20% was better than nothing. Thinking so, he made up his mind. He raised his hand, bit his fingertip, and wrote Lu Ye's name on the tracing disc, and then wrote it again and again. The red blood imprinted on the disc and soon disappeared. The next moment, the tracing disc suddenly shattered, turning into a rainbow light that rushed into the sky and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The tracing disc had two different effects. One was used by Jiang Liuzi before. With the guidance of the tracing disc, it could accurately track the location of a certain person. Of course, the premise was that both parties were in the same space. The other was used by Tan Sheng at this moment. After the tracing disc was shattered, it naturally couldn't provide any guidance, but this effect could make it impossible for Lu Ye to hide or hide. The former effect only needed to write the name of the person being tracked once with blood as a guide, but the latter effect needed to be written 3 times, so Tan Sheng wrote Lu Ye's name twice. At the same time, on a transmission array 800 miles away from Tan Sheng and the others, Lu Ye, who was sitting there, felt an inexplicable throbbing in his heart. Before he could react to what had happened, a blood-red light suddenly fell from the sky, fell on him, and directly wrapped him. Then, the blood-red light soared into the sky and turned into a beam of light. That movement was almost the same as the explosion of the special golden spirit lot. The difference was that the pillar of light that erupted from the spirit lot was golden, but at this moment, the one that erupted from his body was blood-red, and there weren't any strong fluctuations of spiritual power. Lu Ye had no idea what had happened. However, such a huge commotion would obviously attract the attention of nearby cultivators. Thus, the moment he sensed that something was wrong, he activated the transportation formation and disappeared on the spot. Not long after he disappeared, a group of cultivators heard the news and rushed into the cave. However, before they could enter to investigate, someone activated the explosion array that Lu Ye had left here. A buzzing sound shook the area and flames soared into the sky. Several cultivators were blasted into dust and dirt and hurriedly rushed out of the cave. More and more cultivators gathered in this area. But now, it seemed that he had underestimated the situation. Tan Sheng and the others really couldn't catch up to him with the tracking plate, but they directly used the second function of the tracking plate. They really wanted to make it impossible for him to hide. The golden spirit tag would erupt once every 6 hours. The frequency was already high enough, but the blood-red light would erupt once every 2 hours. They didn't give him a way out at all. I've already asked for help. Little junior brother, you must hold on. You must hold on until the hunting ground closes. Got it. After ending the transmission, Lu Ye immediately left his hiding place and walked out. Since he knew that his position would be exposed once every 2 hours, he couldn't continue to stay in the cave. There weren't many transmission arrays left. Every time his position was exposed, it would inevitably lead to the destruction of a transmission array. Therefore, under the premise that he was relatively safe, he had to set up more transmission arrays. As for Li Baxian saying that he had already asked for help, Lu Ye didn't doubt it. Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan's connections were not something he could compare to. Now that there were many Grand Heaven Alliance experts in the hunting ground, Li Baxian should be able to ask for help. However, he couldn't expect too much. He had to be prepared for the worst and deal with it as actively as possible. Just as he was about to take action, the news about Lu Ye in the hunting ground was rapidly spreading among the Myriad Demon Ridge camp. For a time, a large number of Myriad Demon Ridge cultivators gathered in the direction of Lu Ye's last appearance, especially those whose cultivation wasn't very high, but also not too low. For people like them, the biggest benefit of the hunting ground was the various scattered opportunities. The hunting list wasn't something they could touch. If they weren't strong enough, they didn't have the ability to do so. At this moment, news about Lu Yi was flying all over the place. Naturally, it was tempting. Compared to the hunting list, the bounty for killing Lu Yi was much more abundant. Moreover, according to the news, Lu Yi was only a third-order Cloud River Realm cultivator. Now that he was under the secret technique of the tracking plate, his position would be exposed once every 2 hours. As long as they encountered him, everyone would have a chance to kill him. Under such circumstances, a large number of myriad Demon Ridge cultivators gathered in this direction in a short period of time. This caused some Grand Heaven Alliance cultivators to be unlucky. In the hunting ground, the cultivators from the two camps could be said to be evenly matched. However, once a large number of cultivators from one camp gathered in one direction, the cultivators from the other camp naturally couldn't compete with them. The Grand Heaven Alliance cultivators who didn't know about the situation retreated from the area after encountering many dangers. 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. Every 2 hours, a large amount of news about Lu Yi would spread. Every time his position was exposed, a large number of myriad Demon Ridge cultivators would investigate in a very short period of time. But without exception, no one really discovered his tracks. With the help of the transmission array, he could teleport 200 kilometers away the moment his position was exposed. After a few months, Lu Yi once again experienced the feeling of being chased by countless people in the Spirit Stream battlefield. However, this time, it was much more dangerous than the Spirit Stream battlefield. In the Spirit Stream battlefield, the cultivators were only at the Spirit Stream tier. How could the various techniques that they could use compare to Cloud River tier elites? In the Spirit Stream battlefield, Lu Yi basically didn't have to worry about his own safety after his cultivation base reached the Heaven 8 tier. He was the only one who could find trouble with others. After reaching the Heaven 9 tier, he was even more invincible. Everywhere he went, the great sects of the Myriad Demon Ridge would tremble in fear. The encounter this time was more dangerous than before. The biggest reason was that the hunting ground could only be entered but not exited. This created a great restriction for him. Otherwise, he could have found a Heavenly Secret Commerce Alliance and barged in. He could have borrowed the Heavenly Secret Commerce Alliance's protection. As time passed, there were fewer and fewer transmission arrays. Now, there were only 2 transmission arrays left that could be used. If it weren't for the fact that Lu Yi found an opportunity to rearrange them every time he escaped, there would have been no transmission arrays left. Lu Yi could feel that there seemed to be more and more myriad Demon Ridge cultivators in this area. He couldn't stay in this damned place anymore. Even if there were 2 transmission arrays left, he couldn't stay. If he continued to stay in this area, sooner or later, something would happen. However, if he didn't use the transmission arrays, once his whereabouts were exposed, he would definitely be in great danger. To leave or to stay, it was really difficult to choose. However, Lu Yi quickly made up his mind. He would leave this area. Only by leaving this area would he have a chance of survival. If he continued to stay, he would undoubtedly die. Looking up at the blood-red sky, Lu Yi felt helpless. The hunting ground had been open for almost 20 days. When would it close? That blood-red light appeared on his body again. Immediately afterward, a blood-red pillar of light shot into the sky. Another explosion had occurred. Lu Yi activated the transmission array beneath his feet and directly teleported 200 miles away. Hurriedly leaving the cave where the transmission array was located, Lu Yi flew into the air. He tried his best not to make too much noise, and flew at a speed that was neither too fast nor too slow. He was only 100 feet above the ground. To be continued. Chapter 528. There were many myriad Demon Ridge cultivators in this area, so Lu Yi couldn't move quickly. Every time there was a slight movement around him, he had to stop and hide himself with the help of his concealment spirit inscriptions. He silently estimated the time. He needed to get as far away from this area as possible within an hour. Only in this way could he fight for more chances of survival. Soon, an hour passed. The blood-red light appeared on the surface of his body again. followed by a blood-red pillar of light shooting into the sky. Such an obvious phenomenon could be seen clearly by the nearby cultivators as long as they weren't blind. At the same time as the blood-red pillar of light erupted, Lu Yi threw a few source spirit pills into his mouth. Flames surged behind him as he spread out his wings. With the support of his flight wing spirit inscriptions, he flapped his wings and turned into a stream of light that shot straight into the distance. His location had been exposed and there was no transmission array to use. Now, all he could rely on was his own speed. Although he was only a third-order cultivator, with the support of his flight wing spirit inscriptions, his flying speed was not inferior to an ordinary 6th or 7th-order cultivator. If he used wind travel, his speed would be even faster. Not long after flying, several streams of light appeared in front of him. Obviously, they were myriad Demon Ridge cultivators who had sensed the movement and came to investigate. When they saw a red light rushing at them at an extremely fast speed, they all stopped in their tracks. The speed of one's flight often represented the strength of one's cultivation. Generally speaking, the higher one's cultivation, the faster one's flight speed would be, whether it was using flying artifact or flying. Therefore, it was very difficult for the weak to escape from the hands of the strong because running was useless. When they saw the red light that Lu Yi had turned into, the myriad Demon Ridge cultivators didn't think much of it and only thought that it was a master from their camp. It wasn't until Lu Ye's figure passed by them and the battlefield marks on their backs flashed red that they came back to their senses. It wasn't from their camp at all, but from Grand Heaven Alliance. Moreover, the other party's spirit energy fluctuations weren't as strong as they had imagined. It was at most a third-order or fourth-order cultivator, a third-order or fourth-order cultivator from Grand Heaven Alliance. One of them suddenly came back to his senses. It's Lu Yi. Shouting so, he immediately chased after Lu Yi. He was a fifth-order cultivator, so he wasn't afraid of a third-order cultivator. Seeing this, his companions followed suit. However, in less than the time for an incense stick to burn, they'd been left in the dust by Lu Yi. All of them had gloomy expressions as they regretted that such a great fortuitous encounter had actually brushed past them. Lu Yi didn't try to hide anymore because he couldn't hide anymore. He continued to activate the flying wing spirit rune and charged forward. Along the way, he encountered many cultivators from the myriad Devil Ridge. However, these people didn't expect him to be so bold. They were all like the cultivators he encountered in the first wave. By the time they reacted and wanted to chase after him, it was already too late. News constantly spread in all directions, reporting Lu Ye's current location. Large groups of myriad Devil Ridge cultivators chased after Lu Yi, searching for him. While flying, Lu Yi constantly threw origin spirit pills into his mouth to replenish his spiritual power. Continuously activating the flight wing spirit rune consumed a great deal of Yang Kai's strength. With his current third-order cultivation, if he didn't take spirit pills to supplement himself, he would run out of spirit chi in less than half a day. Even if he swallowed pills to replenish his energy, he still could not make ends meet. Moreover, he hadn't even activated the wind travel spirit rune yet. If he did, the consumption would only be greater. An hour later, the blood-red beam of light erupted again. Only a moment later, a stream of light suddenly approached him from the side. Obviously, this person had noticed the commotion and rushed over. The speed of this stream of light was extremely fast. Even if Lu Yi activated the flight wing spirit rune, he still couldn't match the speed of the other party. Lu Yi knew at a glance that this person was an 8th order or 9th order master. He felt helpless in his heart. In the end, he was still targeted by such a master. With the flight wing spirit rune and the wind travel spirit rune, he didn't need to worry about cultivators below the 7th order. Only those in the 8th order or 9th order couldn't outrun him. However, even if he couldn't outrun them, he still had to run. Making up his mind, Lu Yi activated the wind travel spirit rune and increased his speed again. The spirit chi in his body flowed out like a flood. The sudden increase in speed surprised the expert from the myriad Demon's Ridge who was chasing after Lu Yi. He then shouted angrily, "Lu Yi, you can't escape. Surrender now and I'll give you a quick death." The voice sounded familiar. Wei Kei's figure immediately appeared in Lu Ye's mind. "I'm really unlucky. Why do I have to run into this guy everywhere I go? While Lu Yi was fleeing, another stream of light shot up into the sky from below and rushed straight towards him. Lu Ye's face changed drastically as he grabbed the golden body token and secretly pushed his spirit chi, preparing to use this final life-saving card at a moment's notice. This couldn't be helped as the stream of spirit chi rushing out from below was also a ninth-order master. Under such a pincer attack, how could Lu Yi survive? This was also the reason why Lu Yi had decisively acted alone when he realized that he was in a bad situation. He only had one golden body token, so if he had no other choice, he could use it to save his life. At the very least, he could live for a few more hours, but if Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan were with him, they would only suffer an unexpected disaster. The distance between them quickly closed and Lu Yi was about to activate the power of the golden body token when a strange voice rang in his ear, "Run!" As soon as these words fell, the stream of light brushed past him and met Wei Kei, who was chasing after him. In an instant, spirit chi surged and the two began fighting. "Many thanks, senior brother." Lu Yi shouted and shot off into the distance like a bolt of lightning. He didn't know who helped him at this crucial moment to stop Wei Quebec. The only thing he was sure of was that the other party was from Haotian Alliance. Perhaps it was a helper invited by Li Baxian, or perhaps it was purely a passerby, but in any case, he had managed to escape. Chuan 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 euro slash p 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 slash Lu Yi rejoiced inwardly and continued onward. After a short moment, he descended and found a concealed place to recuperate slightly. Continuing to flee all along the way was truly slightly tiring, and he absolutely couldn't let go of any opportunity to recuperate. After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, the sound of something breaking through the air came from above. Obviously, the myriad demon ridge cultivators were chasing after him. Now, his position would be exposed every 2 hours, so there was no way for him to hide completely. Although he was safe now, his position would be exposed again in a while, so he had to move quickly. He couldn't stay in one place for too long, otherwise, he would definitely be surrounded by too many myriad demon ridge cultivators. After eating something and swallowing some spirit pills, Lu Yi once again set foot on the road of escape. He wasn't in a hurry to activate the flying wing spirit rune. His position hadn't been exposed yet, so there was no need to be too anxious. Half an hour later, Lu Yi estimated that the blood-red light beam was about to erupt again, so he activated the flying wing spirit rune again and fled as fast as lightning. The road of escape was extremely difficult. The secret technique of the tracing plate couldn't be deciphered at all. Every time his position was exposed, a large number of myriad demon ridge cultivators would chase after him. Under the premise that there was no way to hide himself, there was nothing he could do as a third-order cultivator. He could only desperately escape, buy himself as much time as possible, and pray that the hunting ground would close as soon as possible. However, this time, the heavens didn't seem to care much about him. The hunting ground covered by the blood-red light curtain showed no signs of closing at all. On the bounty list hanging high in the sky, Lu Ye's ranking kept falling, and now he was 7th. He encountered a few 8th or 9th order cultivators that he couldn't contend with, but it didn't take long for the Masters of Grand Heaven Alliance to take action and stop the pursuers for him. The first time might be a coincidence, but the second and third time were the connections of Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan. Now in the hunting ground, how could the myriad demon ridge cultivators' pursuit of Lu Yi be hidden from the Grand Heaven Alliance cultivators? Originally, many people didn't know what was going on, but after Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan invited some people to take action, the news quickly spread. This led to fierce confrontations between the cultivators of the two camps in many places, and people were constantly dying. According to the progress of the hunting ground in the past, when the hunting ground was about to close at any time, except for a few masters who were fighting for the bounty list, most people would choose to stay dormant because they had already obtained the benefits and opportunities they wanted. At this time, their main goal was to protect themselves. But the situation this time was completely different from the past. As time passed, the confrontation between the cultivators of the two camps not only didn't subside, but also became more and more intense. High up in the sky, Lu Ye's figure flashed past. With the flight wings and windwalk spirit runes, his speed far exceeded his limit. However, a few kilometers behind him, there was a stream of light in hot pursuit, and a dozen kilometers away, another stream of light was rapidly approaching. The one slightly closer was an 8th-order cultivator, and the one further away was a 9th-order cultivator. With Lu Ye's current speed, only 8th or 9th-order cultivators could catch up with him. Originally, there were 3 people chasing him, but not long ago, a Grand Heaven Alliance master took action and entangled one of them, so now there were only 2 left. But even so, Lu Ye was being chased into a corner. Whether it was the 8th order or the 9th order cultivator, the distance between them was closing. Obviously, in terms of speed, the 2 were faster than Lu Ye, especially the 9th order cultivator. The gap between them was extremely obvious. At this time, more than a day had passed since Yang Kai began his escape. With just his 3rd order cultivation, no one would believe that he had been able to persist for so long under the pursuit of so many myriad Demon Ridge Masters. Of course, this was thanks to the help of many Grand Heaven Alliance Masters, but most importantly, Yang Kai's speed was high enough. But he had reached his limit. Not to mention other things, he didn't have much spirit energy left in his body. Even if he kept swallowing spirit pills, he couldn't hold on any longer. There was also mental pressure. Running between life and death like this was a great burden on one's mind. But even so, he didn't plan to give up. When he was resting in a place before, he took the time to arrange a transmission array. Although the transmission array wasn't hidden enough and he didn't have time to arrange other concealment spirit arrays, as long as he was given another cup of tea's time, he could arrange another transmission array and directly teleport 200 kilometers away, thus getting rid of the 2 pursuers. Chapter 529. That was the plan, but in the current situation, there was no way to get rid of these 2 pursuers. If he couldn't get rid of them, Lu Ye couldn't arrange the transmission array again. He tried to construct a void spirit rune in the air. If he could succeed, he could use the power of this spirit rune to connect with the transmission array and achieve the goal of teleportation. However, he had learned this void spirit rune from a book and not from his talent tree, so he couldn't create it as he wished. This spirit rune was extremely complex, containing more than 3,000 yin and yang elements. Even if Lu Ye calmed himself down to construct it, it would still take some time and there was even a chance of failure. Now that he was being chased and fleeing for his life, his spirit chi was in turmoil, so he couldn't construct this spirit rune. After several attempts, he gave up helplessly. At this moment, a strong fluctuation of spiritual energy came from below. Then, a powerful spell shot up to the sky and attacked him. In an instant, Lu Ye's skin tightened and he felt a chill run down his spine. His figure, which was running forward, changed direction at an incredible angle and narrowly avoided this spell technique. Before he could regain his composure, more spells were already flying toward him. The one who attacked was a 9th order cultivator who had been lying in ambush below. When Lu Ye passed by above, this cultivator suddenly appeared and caught him off guard. This cultivator should have been in contact with the 2 pursuers behind him, otherwise, there was no way he could have ambushed him so well. Many spell techniques appeared in his field of vision, and feeling the power of these spells, Lu Ye sighed in his heart. I've reached my limit. When the spell techniques arrived, the violent spirit chi fluctuations swept out and submerged Lu Ye's figure. The cultivator who attacked and the 2 pursuers behind Lu Ye were overjoyed when they saw this. Especially the 2 pursuers, who had experienced Lu Ye's speed all the way here. If they hadn't sent someone to ambush him, they really wouldn't have been able to do anything to Lu Ye. Now that Lu Ye was engulfed in so many spell techniques, even with his 3rd order cultivation he wouldn't be able to resist and would likely die. This made them a little worried, fearing that Lu Ye would be smashed to pieces. If that happened, there would be no evidence. Just as these thoughts flashed through their minds, at the center of the violent spell techniques, a dazzling golden light suddenly bloomed and Lu Ye's figure rushed out. Impossible! He was a ninth-order realm cultivator, so even if Lu Yi, a third-order realm cultivator, didn't die, he should have been severely injured. But looking at the golden light, Lu Yi was completely unharmed. What was that golden light? Golden body talisman. However, even if it was a golden body talisman, it shouldn't have been able to completely block his spell. This was completely beyond his understanding. Seeing Lu Yi's figure rushing out, the magic cultivator hurriedly rose into the air and joined in the pursuit. No matter what that layer of golden light was, he couldn't let Lu Yi escape. As they chased, the distance between them shrank to a point where they could attack. The spell cultivator once again cast his spell. Although Lu Yi tried to dodge, it was too late. The powerful spell struck him accurately, sending him flying through the air. What happened next made the cultivator's eyelids twitch. Even though Lu Yi was battered and exhausted, the golden light on his body still enveloped him, and there was no trace of injury. This was definitely not the golden body talisman. The golden body talisman didn't have such a powerful protective ability. Beat him down, don't let him escape again. A voice called out. It was another ninth-order realm cultivator who had caught up. The spell cultivator nodded and immediately joined forces with the man to put pressure on Lu Yi. In the air, Lu Yi, who was wrapped in golden light, was like a canoe sailing on the sea in a storm. Even though he tried his best to dodge the attacks, it was still difficult for him to avoid them. The attacks hit him one after another, causing the golden light to ripple. Although they couldn't hurt him at all, they sent him flying back and forth. It had to be said that the protection of the golden body talisman was extremely powerful. When the attacks hit him, they could only change his direction. Get down! While Lu Yi was dizzy, an angry shout came from above his head, followed by a flash of sword light. Lu Yi only felt his body tremble slightly before he fell straight down like a meteor from the sky. With a bang, Lu Yi slammed into the ground, causing it to crack and a crater to appear. Lu Yi hurriedly got up. 3 figures were floating in the air beside him, surrounding him in a triangular formation. One was the spell cultivator who had just attacked him from the ground, while the other 2 were the myriad demon ridge masters who had been chasing him. Both were armament cultivators, and one of them was holding a long saber and exuding a fierce aura. It should be this saber-wielding armament cultivator who had knocked him down from the sky. As soon as he got up, the 3 attacked him again, sending out secret techniques, saber waves, and imperial artifact attacks. Lu Yi's figure was sent flying again. He was unable to control his body after being hit by one attack after another, and he became dizzy. After a while, the world energy fluctuations around him subsided and he fell to the ground again. The golden body talisman. When the saber-wielding armament cultivator spoke, the corner of his eyes couldn't help but twitch. The 3 of them attacked together, 2 ninth order and 1 8th order, but they couldn't break the golden light shield, nor did they cause any harm to Lu Yi. It was self-evident what the golden light was. In this world, besides the golden body talisman, there was nothing else that could provide such a powerful and unreasonable protection, because it was a protection bestowed by the heavens. Before the time limit was up, let alone 3 Cloud River Realm cultivators, even a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator could only watch helplessly. He used the golden body talisman? The spell cultivator also reacted, his heart throbbing with pain. The golden body talisman was a precious treasure, synonymous with another life, but it was actually obtained by a third-order cultivator and used up. If he had known that Lu Yi had such a precious treasure, he would have chosen a more subtle way to kill him. Now that he had used it, there was no point in feeling distressed. Where did this guy get the golden body talisman? How is his luck so good? While the 2 were talking, Lu Yi stood up and looked left and right, his heart filled with bitterness. In the end, he couldn't escape. Don't think about escaping, you can't escape, the spell cultivator warned. With the protection of the golden body talisman, they would never be able to hurt Lu Yi. At most, they could only restrict his movements. However, the golden body talisman couldn't protect him forever. This thing always had a time limit, and once the time limit was up, they would naturally be able to kill him. In other words, in the eyes of the 3, Lu Yi was a fish on the chopping board. It was impossible for him to escape, and it was only a matter of when to slaughter him. I won't escape, Lu Yi simply sat down cross-legged and took out some spirit pills to swallow. The spirit energy in his body had been consumed too much during this escape. No matter what he faced next, it was always right to replenish his spirit energy first. Seeing him like this, the three from Myriad Demon Ridge had no intention of stopping him, but they couldn't. Time passed, and the three stared at Lu Yi without blinking, as if they were afraid that he would do something, but Lu Yi still sat cross-legged in place, silently swallowing spirit pills and refining them. In a moment he had swallowed nearly 10 spirit pills, leaving the three speechless. Under normal circumstances, cultivators did need to rely on spirit pills to recover, but more often than not, they relied on spirit stones. This was because if they swallowed too many spirit pills in a short period of time, it would cause their spirit energy to stagnate and affect their strength. What was more serious was the accumulation of pill toxins, which required a long time to recuperate. However, thinking that Lu Yi could die at any time, they couldn't care too much. It was understandable. Suddenly, Lu Yi opened his eyes, looked at the three, and said, "The major sects of Myriad Demon Ridge have put a bounty on me. The three of you should be able to enjoy it for the rest of your life. Congratulations." He suddenly said such inexplicable words, but the three from Myriad Demon Ridge had no intention of answering. The saber cultivator looked at Lu Yi coldly with a vigilant expression. Lu Yi continued, "But it's a pity that the three of you want to share the bounty equally. In a moment, a layer of bloody light will erupt on my body, and my position will be exposed. Presumably, many people will gather here. There will be at least 100. At that time, whoever can take my life will be able to monopolize the bounty, or do you still want to share it equally? However, although the bounty is large, if there are too many people, it won't be much after splitting it among everyone." These words made the three frown. In fact, this was also what the three of them were worried about. Although the three of them had been silent, they were actually secretly communicating. Lu Yi's position would definitely be exposed, unless the Golden Body Medallion lost its effect before he was exposed. However, the Golden Body Token lasted for a long time, and who knew when it would lose its effect? And what Lu Yi said was the most likely scenario to happen next. "What are you trying to say?" the magic cultivator asked in a deep voice. "The three of you were able to catch up to me because of your ability. I have no complaints if I die at your hands, as you deserve it. But if I die at the hands of others, I will be a little unwilling, so I don't want to attract too many people." Lu Yi said this, then changed the topic. "This humble one is not talented, but he is proficient in the Tao of arrays. If the three of you allow it, I can arrange a concealment array here. It might be able to conceal the commotion later. This way, no one will be able to discover my position." Hearing this, the Eighth Order cultivator's expression changed. "Are you that kind?" Lu Yi said indifferently, "This Lu's cultivation may not be high, but I have stirred up many storms. If I die, so be it. I don't want too many people to see my death. Of course, it's up to you whether you believe me or not, and it's also up to you whether you want to arrange it or not." The saber cultivator suddenly looked at the magic cultivator. "Brother Lu, I remember that you cultivate the Tao of arrays. Can you arrange a concealment array?" The corner of Lu Ye's eyes twitched. The magic cultivator surnamed Lu said, "Yes." Lu Yi was speechless. His plan was ruined. He originally thought that if the three of them were willing to let him set up a transmission array, he would just set up a transmission array and teleport away right under their noses. But he didn't expect this magic cultivator surnamed Lu to also cultivate the Tao of arrays. He was really unlucky. Chapter 530. "I'll set up the formation." "Guards," said the cultivator surnamed Lu. The two cultivators from the Myriad Demon's Ridge nodded and stared at Lu Yi, one on the left and one on the right. The magic cultivator surnamed Lu immediately drew out a few formation flags and sent them flying in all directions. Just from this person's technique, it could be seen that this person indeed had some attainments in the field of formations. However, among cultivators at the level of the Cloud River tier, even those who had switched to the field of formations would not have very high attainments, let alone a magic cultivator who had also cultivated the field of formations. After throwing out several formation flags, The cultivator surnamed Lu began to set up the formation. Lu Yi sat in place and watched coldly. After a moment he suddenly laughed. "Brother Lu, there's not enough time." "Shut up." The cultivator surnamed Lu was furious. Setting up a formation wasn't something that could be done overnight. It always needed some time. If the cultivator surnamed Lu was given enough time, he could indeed set up a concealment formation. However, what he lacked now was time. No one knew when Lu Yi would suddenly erupt, and when that happened, their position would definitely be exposed. The cultivator surnamed Lu was already nervous, and after being ridiculed by Lu Yi, he was careless, and the formation flags that had been connected suddenly trembled. If he didn't hurry and stabilize the formation flags, he was afraid that he would have to start all over again. Then all his previous efforts would be in vain, and it would really be too late. However, he only cultivated the Tao of formations and wasn't a true formation cultivator. In the face of such a situation, even if he wanted to remedy it, he was powerless. As he set up the formation, the trembling of the formation flags became more and more intense. The other two cultivators frowned and watched. Although they didn't understand the Tao of formations, they could see that something was wrong. Just as the cultivator surnamed Lu was flustered, a formation flag suddenly flew out of thin air and inserted itself into the formation. The trembling formation flags immediately stabilized. "Your formation isn't good enough," Lu Yi said casually. Lu Yi said casually as another array flag flew out, perfectly fusing into the unformed array. The cultivator surnamed Lu was speechless. For a moment, he didn't know whether he should stop him or not. After thinking about it, he didn't stop him in the end. Formation flags flew out one after another, and in the blink of an eye, the embryonic form of a large formation had already been formed. Cultivator Lu couldn't help but gasp in amazement at Lu Yi's swift movements. He knew that Lu Yi's attainments in the Tao of formations were far superior to his own. However, the Void Spirit Rune was the most complicated spirit rune Lu Yi had ever come into contact with, apart from the Fire Phoenix Spirit Rune. It was 3 times more complicated than the Flying Wing Spirit Rune. It was extremely difficult to construct it. Even though he had constructed the Void Spirit Rune many times, there was still a risk of failure. He prayed silently in his heart, and his mind was extremely focused. His luck was good. There was no mistake in the construction process. In a moment, 70% of the Void Spirit Rune had been formed. It would not take too long. As long as the Void Spirit Rune was completed in 20 breaths of time, he could immediately activate the transmission formation and leave this place. The only problem now was whether the spell practitioner surnamed Lu could see the problem. The other party had some attainments in the spell formation, so he might be able to see that what he had set up was not an aura-concealing spell formation at all. He quietly raised his eyes and glanced at the spell practitioner surnamed Lu, only to see a look of amazement in the other party's eyes. It seemed that he was completely immersed in the wonderful artistic conception of constructing the spirit rune out of thin air. For him, who was a spell practitioner and a spell practitioner, it was undoubtedly a rare experience to witness a spiritual tattooist construct such a complicated spirit rune with his own eyes. It was very likely to give him some mysterious inspiration and then improve his own level. "It's done." Lu Yi was relieved. Just as he was thinking this, there was a sudden sound of something breaking through the air. A saber light suddenly slashed on the Void Spirit Rune that was about to take shape. With a boom, the spiritual power became chaotic, and the Void Spirit Rune was instantly destroyed. Lu Yi's face darkened. He raised his eyes to look at the weapon practitioner who used the saber, wishing he could pounce on him and hack him to death. Just a little bit more. "Brother Xia." The spell practitioner surnamed Lu woke up from his immersion and looked at Xia Liang in confusion. Xia Liang said, "He's setting up an aura-concealing spell formation?" The spell practitioner surnamed Lu shook his head. He naturally recognized the aura-concealing spell formation, but even if he could see that Lu Yi was not setting up an aura-concealing spell formation, he did not stop him. From his point of view, no matter what Lu Yi did now, he would not be able to escape death. The reason why he did not stop him was mainly because Lu Yi's method of constructing the spirit rune was too wonderful. He had gained a lot from it, so he wanted to watch for a while longer. I knew it. Xia Liang looked at Lu Yi coldly. If you really don't want too many people to see your death, then just kill yourself. Why do you have to do all this nonsense? When the other two heard this, they realized that it was true. Lu Yi had helped them set up a concealing spell formation, and then he was about to set up a second spell formation. Although he said it was an aura concealing spell formation, they did not know what he was actually setting up. It was obvious that he was up to no good. This was completely inconsistent with what he had said before. Knowing that he was going to die, he was still acting so sneakily. How was this a state of mind that was willing to die? This was clearly a stubborn resistance. For a moment, the three of them looked at him with unfriendly expressions. Lu Yi sat on the spot, his eyes drooping, not bothering to explain himself. At that moment, a blood-red light suddenly appeared on the surface of his body. Then, the blood-red light turned into a pillar of light that shot straight into the sky. The expressions of the three from Myriad Demon Ridge turned ugly. The concealing spell formation could not hide this phenomenon at all. They had been looking forward to it for half a day in vain. Now that Lu Yi's position had been exposed, a large number of Myriad Demon Ridge cultivators would definitely rush here. Although the three of them were not weak, they could not possibly drive away all the Myriad Demon Ridge cultivators who came, could they? That would incur the wrath of the crowd. Sure enough, a moment later, a group of Myriad Demon Ridge cultivators nearby rushed over. This group had 4 cultivators, the highest being a 6th-order cultivator, and the lowest being a 4th-order cultivator. Judging from their attire, they should be fellow brothers from the same sect. Originally, he had only come over to investigate casually, but in the end, he discovered that there were actually powerhouses from his own camp here. And the one that they had gathered in the center was a guy with a green face and fangs that was emitting golden light all over his body and wearing a demon mask with a green face and fangs. This is... The 6th-order cultivator in the lead was surprised, but he quickly reacted. Lu Yi had been blocked by the masters from their own camp. However, what puzzled him was that since Lu Yi had been blocked, why did the masters from their own camp just surround him and not kill him? After all, Lu Yi's life was related to a huge bounty. The 4 of them did not dare to get too close, lest the masters from their own camp misunderstood. They only watched from a distance of a few dozen meters, their hearts filled with doubts. As time passed, more and more Myriad Demon Ridge cultivators gathered. Most of them were like the cultivators from the first group, unable to figure out what was going on. There were also some experts who went straight to Lu Yi's side and exchanged a few words with Xia Liang and the others. There were even some who tried to attack Lu Yi, but no matter how powerful their attacks were, they could only send Lu Yi flying. They couldn't hurt him at all. Soon, the cultivators who did not understand the situation slowly understood. Lu Yi had gotten a golden body medallion from somewhere. Now that he was protected by the golden body, no one could kill him before the golden body disappeared. Some cultivators knew about the golden body token, while others did not. However, after understanding the situation, they were all amazed. It was a protection bestowed by the heavens, and before the time limit was up, no matter what method they used, they could not break it. Even a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator would be jealous of such a treasure. Who would have thought that a 3rd-order Cloud River Realm cultivator would obtain it and use it? This was really a waste of heaven's treasure. After all, Lu Yi was going to die. It was a pity to waste a golden body token. However, they finally understood why those 8th and 9th order masters only surrounded Lu Yi and did not kill him. This made many people think. Originally, their cultivation was not high, so it would be difficult for them to take advantage of the situation, but in this situation, it was not impossible to give it a try. What if they killed Lu Yi the moment the golden body disappeared? To be continued, get //1. Upgrade and secure requests, LLA/5. 10, 0, win 64, /. Ed exchange, 3. Noda, brand, Chromium, Me, SEV platform, Wind, WH. 9, in US. 7, 6, Ja. 5 Cookie, 250, Ujenian, F19CBT0B6A717D7 Phase 6 FB34B440 underscore MB74 ZVJS FXW Jmoy 1 KMODLQ 000000000000000000000000000. He no longer had any hope of getting first place, and the benefits from killing Lu Yi had also been reduced to 20%. That way Kay also came, standing not far from Tan Xing, chatting and laughing with the people he was familiar with. Among the scattered crowd, Lu Yi also saw Jiang Liuzi and his brother. Many of the myriad demons' ridge cultivators had dark red light blooming on the back of their hands. Only he, who was surrounded by the crowd, had a different light blooming on his hand. He was truly a blue dot in a sea of flowers, unique and unique. Sensing Lu Ye's gaze, Jiang Liuzi and his brother raised their eyes and looked at each other. Lu Yi nodded slightly at them. This indifferent attitude stunned the Jiang Liuzi and his brother. They didn't know if Lu Yi was really not afraid of death or just putting on an act. A third-order cultivator was surrounded by so many myriad demons' ridge cultivators. When the time limit of the golden body token was up, he would die. If it were him, Jiang Liuzi couldn't be as calm as Lu Yi. Lu Yi was looking around when the battlefield mark suddenly sent him a message. He looked down and saw that it was a message from Li Ba Xian. Little junior brother, hold on, I'll contact someone to save you. Lu Yi being trapped here had caused an uproar in a short period of time. Many cultivators from Myriad Demons Ridge had heard about it and were rushing over. Naturally, the people of Grand Heaven Alliance had also heard about it. This made Li Ba Xian anxious. At this moment, he and Feng Yuechan were hiding 20 kilometers away. But in the current situation, it was useless for him to be anxious. He and Feng Yuechan were only fourth-order cultivators. It was impossible for them to rescue Lu Yi from the encirclement of so many masters, so they didn't dare to act rashly. Now, Li Ba Xian and Feng Yuechan could only try to contact as many masters from Grand Heaven Alliance as possible and ask them for help. But if they wanted to rescue Lu Yi from the encirclement, it would be impossible without a dozen or 29th order cultivators working together. If they went with too few people, it would be suicide. Myriad Demons Ridge wouldn't be polite to Grand Heaven Alliance. If they had enough time, with their connections, it wouldn't be a problem to contact a dozen or 29th order cultivators. But now time was of the essence. Many people weren't nearby, so it would take some time for them to rush over. Li Ba Xian only regretted that he hadn't broken through to the Cloud River realm earlier. If he was a Cloud River 9th order cultivator now, how could he watch his little junior brother get trapped like this? But on second thought, if he had broken through to the Cloud River realm earlier, he would have been in the True Lake realm by now and wouldn't have stayed in the Cloud River battlefield. After thinking about it, he felt that he was useless and couldn't save his little junior brother. Okay. Lu Yi replied simply. Looking around again, he took a deep breath. The preparations were almost done. It was time to implement his plan. He was surrounded here and couldn't escape. The only thing he could rely on was the unbreakable golden body token. But the golden body token had a time limit. Once the time limit was up, he would have to die even if he didn't want to. Unless he could arrange a transmission array and use it to teleport 200 kilometers away, he would have a chance of survival. He couldn't just wait for death. Even if he couldn't escape and had to die here, he had to drag some people down with him before he died. Especially that guy called Tan Sheng. If he hadn't used the secret technique on the tracking plate, he wouldn't be in such an awkward situation. His spiritual power surged fiercely, and a spirit pattern that covered his entire chest quickly took shape. Then, the ferocious surging spirit energy quickly poured into the spirit inscription. Such an abnormal situation naturally couldn't be hidden from the 9th order cultivators gathered around. In an instant, pairs of eyes focused on Lu Yi with surprised expressions. They didn't know what Lu Yi was doing. Wei Kei said, "Boy, don't try any tricks. You can't escape." Lu Yi raised his head and looked at him indifferently with a calm expression. "I'm not trying to escape. Don't be nervous." While speaking, he stuffed a handful of spirit pills into his mouth. This posture of swallowing spirit pills in large mouthfuls was really dumbfounding. No cultivator would take spirit pills like this, but considering Lu Ye's current situation, it wasn't surprising. Wei Kei frowned. "What are you doing? What do you think I can do?" This question stumped Wei Quebec. Indeed, in Lu Ye's current situation, what else could he do? At most, he could put up a desperate struggle, but he was just a third-order cultivator. With so many ninth-order cultivators present, as long as he was careful, he wouldn't be able to make any waves. Many people had the same idea as him. So even though they noticed Lu Ye's little tricks, they didn't care too much. Time passed by, and even with a large number of spirit pills, Lu Ye's spirit chi was still constantly flowing away, all of it converging on the spirit inscription on his chest. Although his spirit chi was flowing away, Lu Ye's aura was slowly growing stronger, soon surpassing the level of a third-order cultivator. If one were to estimate Lu Ye's realm based on his spirit chi fluctuations at this moment, he had already reached the fourth order or fifth order. This strange situation made everyone vigilant. Someone shouted, "Lu Ye, stop what you're doing or else what?" Lu Ye raised his eyes to look at the person who spoke, but that person didn't say anything. Yes, or else what? Beat him up. With the protection of the golden body token, who could hurt him? Simple threats were meaningless to Lu Ye, and if he really attacked, it would be a waste of energy. After a moment of silence, the man said, "If you cooperate obediently, you may suffer less, but if you dare to have any disloyalty, I guarantee you will beg for death." Lu Ye was too lazy to pay attention to him and stuffed another handful of spirit pills into his mouth. Unfortunately, the life-extinguishing fruit wine refined by his second senior sister had been used up, otherwise, he would have been able to restore his spirit chi faster. The restorative effect of that thing was not something source spirit pills could compare to. The spirit chi stored in the spirit inscription on his chest had reached its limit. It was still not enough. Lu Ye recalled the last time he used this spirit inscription and secretly decided to give Myriad Demon Ridge a big gift this time. As his spirit chi surged, an identical spirit inscription appeared on his back and he poured his spirit chi into it. His aura became stronger and stronger, and Lu Ye's expression became dignified. Because maintaining these two spirit inscriptions required a lot of concentration, especially after a large amount of spirit chi had been poured into them. If he wasn't focused enough, the spirit inscriptions would break, and all the spirit chi poured into them would explode in an instant. At that time, even the golden body token might not be able to protect him. The golden body token could block external attacks, but it might not be able to block internal attacks. Fortunately, Lu Ye's mental strength had always been much stronger than cultivators in the same realm, so at this moment, as long as he focused on maintaining the spirit inscriptions, there would be no problem. "Something's wrong," Xia Liang suddenly said. Lu Ye's aura at this moment far exceeded that of a third-order cultivator. Judging from this aura alone, no one would doubt that he was a fifth-order, sixth-order cultivator, and as he continued, his aura was constantly growing. Even a fool could see that something was wrong. Immediately, someone shouted angrily, "Lu Ye, don't try to play any tricks." From his cold expression, it seemed that Lu Ye was going to do something heinous to him, but in fact, Lu Ye was the one who was in prison and was in imminent danger. Some people also began to threaten him. Lu Ye turned a deaf ear to them, treating them all as farts as he continued to pour his spirit chi into the spirit inscriptions on his back. With his current attitude and the protection of the golden body medallion, the group of experts from the Myriad Demon Ridge had no way to use their strength. They were extremely helpless and resentful. The golden body medallion had already lasted for several hours. Why hadn't it disappeared yet? As long as the golden body token disappeared, these ninth-order cultivators would be able to kill Lu Ye directly. Chapter 5:32. Lu Ye kept swallowing spirit pills, refining them into his own spirit chi, and then pouring it into the spirit tattoos on his back. His aura gradually became violent. Even the ninth-order masters gathered around him felt a trace of danger from this aura. At this moment, Lu Ye gave them the feeling that he was a volcano that could erupt at any time. Is he going to self-destruct? Someone asked in surprise. Surrounded by so many myriad demon ridge cultivators, even a ninth-order cultivator like Lu Yi wouldn't be able to escape, let alone a third-order cultivator. Instead of being killed, he might as well commit suicide. Ordinary cultivators naturally didn't have the means to self-destruct, but Lu Ye was a spirit tattoo master. Who knew what strange abilities he had? It had to be said that many people had such suspicions, mainly because Lu Ye's current state was too abnormal. But if he really wanted to self-destruct, he could have done so long ago. Why bother hiding? He's accumulating his strength. Someone exclaimed. He wants to drag everyone down with him. These words woke everyone up from their stupor, and the expressions of all the ninth-order cultivators turned solemn. The myriad demon ridge cultivators gathered outside were even more frightened as they retreated in unison. The more dangerous Lu Ye's aura was, the greater the power of his self-destruction would be. He had been accumulating his strength for a long time without taking action. Obviously, he wanted to raise the power of his self-destruction to the limit. With so many myriad demon ridge cultivators present, he would definitely be able to drag some of them down with him. Wishful thinking. Wei Kei said as he rushed in front of Lu Yi in a few steps and kicked out, sending Lu Yi flying. He then shouted, "Beat him up." As soon as his voice fell, many myriad demon ridge cultivators' eyes lit up, thinking that it was a good idea. Lu Ye wanted to use the power of his self-destruction to drag some people down with him, so they only needed to beat him into the air. Once he was in the air, even if he self-destructed, it would be difficult for him to pose any threat to others. Another person sent out a kick, sending Lu Ye's body flying into the air. Following that, streams of light from imperial artifacts flew up and bombarded Lu Ye's body. Lu Ye's figure, shrouded in golden light, was sent flying in the air, rising steadily. Soon he was a few dozen meters above the ground. Every time his body was about to fall, there would always be an imperial equipment accurately attacking him, sending him flying again. As far as the eye could see, Lu Ye's figure rose and fell in the air like a leaf swaying in the wind. Shermu felt dizzy and disoriented for a moment. But he didn't have to worry about getting injured as he had the protection of the golden body token. So, he simply closed his eyes and continued to swallow pills to restore his spiritual power. 20 miles away, Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan were quietly lying in ambush. The commotion reached their ears. Li Baxian focused his vision and immediately saw Lu Ye's miserable state. He immediately clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. His eyes turned blood red. Seeing his junior brother suffer such humiliation, yet being unable to do anything, how could he not feel grief and indignation in his heart? He and Feng Yuechan had already contacted some people who were lurking nearby, but they still didn't have enough people. If they acted rashly at this time, not only would they not be able to save Lu Yi, they would also be in trouble. So, before they had enough strength, no one dared to act rashly. Even if they were angry and unwilling, they could only continue to endure and continue to contact helpers. Suddenly, a figure passed by them. This person was sneaky, and the spiritual energy fluctuations from his body showed that he was only a second-order Cloud River Realm cultivator. This kind of cultivation was very rare in the current hunting ground. After so many days, the first-order and second-order cultivators had basically been killed. Unless they had the protection of a master, it would be very difficult for them to survive in the hunting ground. This person was only a second-order Cloud River Realm cultivator, but he was able to survive alone. He was undoubtedly a ghost cultivator. Only a ghost cultivator would have such ability. When he passed by Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan, Ghost Shadow concealed himself and continued to move forward for more than 10 kilometers. When he looked up, he saw a disheveled figure rising and falling in the air. After staring blankly for a while, Ghost Shadow sighed in his heart. It should be Lu Yi without a doubt. Although the other party was wearing a ghost mask and his face couldn't be seen clearly, the figure was exactly the same as in his memory, so he could basically confirm it. Moreover, with so many masters from Myriad Demon Ridge gathered here, it was impossible for them to mistake Lu Yi's identity. It was a pity. A dignified overlord of Spirit Stream, who could call for wind and rain in the Spirit Stream battlefield, single-handedly suppressing many myriad demon ridge sects and making them unable to raise their heads. Wherever he went, the myriad demon ridge sects would tremble in fear. Now, he was going to suffer such humiliation. Even though he was from the enemy camp, Ghost Shadow couldn't help but feel sad. Therefore, it was better to not be in the limelight, otherwise, it was easy to die prematurely. This was also the reason why he chose the Ghost Cultivator sect. Ghost cultivators were the best at hiding, and no matter what kind of dangerous environment they faced, they would have a chance to protect themselves. So what if he was the overlord of Spirit Stream? So what if he was the Spirit Stream champion? In the end, wasn't he the one who was still alive, and the other party was about to die? Ghost Shadow had specially come to watch the show. If it was any other show, he wouldn't care. With his personality, he wasn't someone who liked to join in on the fun. However, this matter was related to Lu Yi, and he really couldn't hold back his curiosity. In the Spirit Stream list, only Lu Yi could convince him. He had fought with Lu Yi before. Not to mention that they had a battle of patience when the latter rushed into the myriad poison forest. He had almost died at the latter's hands. Furthermore, he had entered the Cloud River battlefield earlier than Lu Yi, but he was still only a second-order Cloud River realm cultivator, while Lu Yi was already a third-order. This was unreasonable. Trapped in the hunting ground, he didn't have any connections as a second-order ghost cultivator, so he could only hide. Fortunately, he had managed to survive until now. At this moment, he was able to witness the end of such a young hero. This trip was not in vain. After today, Lu Yi would no longer exist in this world. But then again, the golden body token was truly amazing. Even with so many myriad demons Ridge Masters taking action, they were only able to knock Lu Yi into the air, unable to harm him. While thinking about this, Ghost Shadow continued to walk forward. Suddenly, Ghost Shadow's body froze. He didn't know why, but there was a palpitating feeling surging in the depths of his soul. This feeling was constantly warning him that there was a great danger ahead, and that he absolutely couldn't move forward. This could be said to be a natural talent that Ghost Shadow was born with. He had an extremely strong premonition towards some hidden dangers. This had nothing to do with his cultivation or the strength of his mind. It was completely an instinctive feeling. Since he started cultivating, he had relied on this feeling to avoid many fatal threats. Ghost Shadow couldn't figure out why there was such a strong sense of danger in this place where so many masters gathered in the Myriad Demon's Ridge. He stood in place, sweat slowly seeping out of his forehead. After a long while, he raised his foot and took a step forward. But it was this step that caused his pupils to suddenly shrink, and the warning in his heart was unprecedentedly strong. Never before had he felt such a strong premonition of danger. This feeling seemed to be singing the melody of death in his ears, warning him that if he continued to move forward, he would undoubtedly die. Fine beads of sweat gathered and slid down his cheeks. Ghost Shadow immediately turned around, no longer caring about hiding his body. He used all his strength to flee into the distance as fast as he could. A moment later, Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan, who were hiding in the shadows, saw the figure that had just walked past flee in a panic. The two of them were puzzled, not knowing why this Myriad Demon's Ridge ghost cultivator had such a panicked appearance. At this moment, a strong fluctuation of spiritual energy came from the distance. Li Baxian looked up and saw that Lu Yi, who had been floating in the air, was suddenly surrounded by dazzling flames. These dark red flames even covered the golden light of the golden body token, making him look like he was burning. As the flames surged, complex runes gathered around Lu Ye's body and spread out in all directions. This is... Feng Yuechan stared at this scene in surprise, not knowing what Lu Yi was doing. At this time, the Myriad Demon's Ridge Masters also realized that the situation was bad. The surging spiritual energy fluctuations from Lu Ye's body were indescribably violent, making them mistakenly think that Lu Yi was about to self-destruct. Moreover, looking at the scene before this self-destruction, the power would definitely be immense. For a time, everyone's attacks became fiercer and fiercer. Lu Yi, who was originally only a few dozen meters above the ground, was once again pushed upwards. It wasn't until he was blasted nearly 2,000 meters that he reached his limit. This was also the limit of the Ninth Order's artifact manipulation ability. Any further and they would have difficulty controlling their own artifact manipulation. At such a distance, even if Lu Yi really self-destructed, it would be difficult for him to pose any threat to them. However, Lu Yi had no intention of self-destructing from beginning to end. He just wanted to use his strongest trump card. The light that had once bloomed on the Spirit Stream battlefield would finally reappear on the Cloud River battlefield today. The world energy around Lu Ye's body surged as his yin and yang qi continued to spread out in all directions, wrapping around his figure. And because of the protection of the golden body token, no matter how fierce the attacks of the myriad demons Ridge Masters below were, it was difficult to stop Lu Ye's movements. The most they could do was prevent Lu Yi from falling. The accumulated spirit qi in the spirit gathering rune on his back was quickly emptied, and a moment later, the spirit qi in the spirit gathering rune on his chest was also emptied. Lu Ye's spirit qi surged endlessly, and his spirit qi flowed out like a flood that had broken through a dam. As his spirit qi was consumed, the runes covering his body became denser and more mysterious. He found that he had been wrong before. When he used this move with Tianqi's cultivation, he had also constructed 2 spirit gathering spirit tattoos to store world energy. At that time, he thought that as long as his cultivation reached the Cloud River realm, even if it wasn't too high, as long as he reached the 5th or 6th order, he should be able to use this trump card at will. But now, it seemed that he had been wrong. Now that he was a 3rd order Cloud River realm cultivator, he had still consumed the accumulated world energy from the 2 spirit gathering spirit tattoos, which was far from enough. It could be seen that the higher one's cultivation, the greater the consumption to use this trump card, but correspondingly, the more powerful it would be. To be continued. Chapter 5:33. 2,000 meters up in the air, Lu Ye's body was shrouded in flames, obscuring the golden light of the golden body token. Accompanied by the surging flames, the mysterious and complex yin and yang spirit runes quickly spread out and merged. The spiritual energy stored in the 2 spirit gathering spirit runes was exhausted, and the spiritual energy in Lu Ye's body was also rapidly depleted. It wasn't until nearly half of his spiritual energy was consumed that the complex spirit runes were completed. Many myriad demon ridge cultivators stared at the strange scene in the air in a daze. What entered their field of vision was an oval egg that looked like a beast egg, but on the surface of this egg, there were a large number of fine and complex lines flashing, wrapping around Lu Ye's entire body. The flashing light was like a strange breath. As the Ninth Order Masters continued to attack, the egg floated up and down in the air. What the hell is this? Everyone was bewildered, but they could all feel the violent and dangerous aura coming from the spirit energy egg. Some people had a bad premonition and had already begun to flee. Even the Ninth Order Masters were on guard at this moment, their skin tingling as if they were being pricked by needles. At this time, inside the spirit energy egg, Lu Yi was still pushing his spiritual energy, pouring all of his remaining spiritual energy into the spirit runes until the river of spiritual energy in his body completely dried up. The light of the spirit energy egg became more and more dazzling, its fiery red color like a great sun hanging in the sky. "Something's wrong, run!" A Ninth Order Master shouted, no longer daring to stay in place. Seeing this, many Ninth Order Masters scattered and fled. No matter what Lu Yi was doing, the scene in front of them was beyond their imagination, and it was more important to leave this place as soon as possible. Without any external bombardment, the spirit energy egg 2,000 meters up in the air quickly fell down. As it fell, dense spiderweb-like cracks suddenly appeared on the surface of the egg, as if something was about to break out. A terrifying aura spread out in all directions as the spiritual energy egg cracked, causing the void to distort. Kacha. Dense sounds rang out, until a certain moment, a clear and loud cry resounded through the sky, deafening everyone. As the cry rang out, the spirit energy egg completely shattered. The flames surged and rolled. From the flames, 2 huge wings appeared first, followed by a beautiful and vigorous body. Ghost Shadow, who had already fled tens of kilometers away, could not help but tremble when he heard this familiar voice. He turned around in a panic, and the scene that entered his eyes made his body and mind tremble. It was a beautiful creature with a wingspan of more than 300 meters and a body length of more than 600 meters. Its beautiful figure dragged a long tail and was wrapped in raging flames, bringing with it the aura of death. The fire phoenix spirit Mark had reappeared in the world. He had seen this thing before in the Spirit Stream battlefield, and it had also been created by Luia. At that time, Luia had charged through the Myriad Devil Ridge cultivators' defensive line and charged into the Myriad Poisons forest. With this move, he had killed nearly 200 cultivators from the Myriad Devil Ridge. At that time, Ghost Shadow had escaped in advance to avoid the calamity. After that, for a long time, that beautiful figure was the source of his nightmares. The scene he saw today was so similar. The difference was that the fire phoenix he saw this time was bigger and more lifelike. The feathers on the fire phoenix's body could be clearly seen. This was undoubtedly related to the increase in Luia's cultivation. The last time he used this move, he was only a Heaven 7th Realm cultivator, but now he was a 3rd Order Cloud River Realm cultivator. The difference in cultivation was still huge. Ghost Shadow was very glad that he had run away early. Otherwise, he would have been involved in this crisis and would have been doomed. The fire phoenix's figure covered the sky as it swooped down from the sky. Its violent aura made the Myriad Devil Ridge cultivators feel as if a mountain was pressing down on them. The scorching heat waves made them despair. It closed the distance of 600 meters in the blink of an eye. Just as the beautiful figure was about to hit the ground, it suddenly changed direction and flew past the ground only a few dozen meters away. Its huge wings flapped gently. Wherever they passed, space distorted and flames swept out. Even the ground began to melt. Screams suddenly rang out and then came to an abrupt end. Even if the Myriad Devil Ridge cultivators started to flee before they saw the fire phoenix, it was too late. Wherever the huge figure passed, the flames engulfed them and the flowers of life quickly withered. This kind of power was something only 9th Order Masters could barely resist, but even then, they were only able to resist for a short while. It seemed like an instant, but it also seemed like thousands of years. When the fire phoenix's figure uncontrollably slammed into a hill, all that was left behind was scorched earth and withered corpses. The chaotic situation slowly calmed down. The fleeing Myriad Devil Ridge cultivators stopped in their tracks with lingering fear. Those who were not on the fire phoenix's path secretly rejoiced that they had survived, but those who were on the fire phoenix's path were not so lucky. Amidst the scorched earth, a figure stood. This person was a 9th Order cultivator, but at this moment he stood motionless. His body was scorched black, and his hair and clothes were all burned away. Although his vitality was still there, he was seriously injured. With such injuries, he had to find a medical cultivator to treat him quickly, otherwise, he would not live for long. This person was unlucky as he was in the path of the fire phoenix. Streams of light shot up into the sky as the 9th Order Masters who were lucky enough to survive rushed towards the place where the fire phoenix fell, arriving a short time later. Looking around, all they saw was Lu Yi lying on the scorched earth with a pale face, his eyes staring blankly towards the sky, as if he didn't even have the strength to move. However, with their previous experience, no one dared to get too close to Lu Yi at this moment. Only the heavens knew what kind of tricks he had up his sleeve. Some people gnashed their teeth in fear. They thought that Lu Yi was going to self-destruct, but who knew that he had such an amazing method up his sleeve? This time, countless people from Myriad Devil Ridge had died. But even if they knew Lu Yi's plan, they could not stop it. With the protection of the Golden Body Token, Lu Yi did not have to worry about them attacking him. Unless they fled in advance, Lu Yi could take advantage of this opportunity to escape. Lu Yi turned a deaf ear to this person's curses. At this moment he only felt dizzy and weak, as if he had been hollowed out. Not only that, the skin on the surface of his body cracked inch by inch, and his entire body was dyed blood red. The last time he used the Fire Phoenix Spirit Tattoo was like this, and this time, his strength was still not enough. The aftereffects of using the Fire Phoenix Spirit Tattoo were too great. With his current strength, as long as he had enough time and spiritual energy, it would not be difficult for him to activate it, but it was almost impossible for him to control it. Otherwise, he would not have ended up here. He would have used the Fire Phoenix to chase down the Ninth Order cultivators and killed as many as he could. Red streams of light flew over from a certain direction like fireflies and fell into the battlefield mark on the back of his hand. These were the merit points contributed by the dead Myriad Demon Ridge cultivators. At the same time, on the hunter list hanging high in the sky, Lu Ye's name, which had almost fallen out of the top 10, flashed slightly and jumped to the top. Originally, his hunting points were 7,110 points, but now they had increased to 15,620 points, which was more than double of what it was before. With such a huge number of hunting points, he deserved to be at the top of the list. One had to know that the original first place had less than 9,000 points. The increase of so many hunting points undoubtedly meant that Lu Ye's Fire Phoenix had killed at least 40 to 50 Myriad Demon Ridge cultivators just now. Compared to the total number of Myriad Demon Ridge cultivators gathered in the vicinity, this number was very small, less than 10%. The main reason was that the Myriad Demon Ridge cultivators had fled in all directions when they saw that the situation was not good. The Fire Phoenix could only kill enemies in one direction and could not do anything to those in other directions. Kacha. There seemed to be a slight crisp sound that rang out in the depths of everyone's heart. At the same time, the blood-red light curtain that shrouded the world shattered like a mirror, and dazzling sunlight shone down. Lu Yi narrowed his eyes. The hunting ground was closed. And coincidentally, it closed after he regained the top of the hunter list. Lu Yi would never believe that this had nothing to do with his luck. Things could not be so coincidental. There had to be a heaven's will at work here. But for his current situation, the closing of the hunting ground seemed to have little meaning because there were so many Ninth Order cultivators surrounding him. He was like a lamp that had run out of oil, so there was no way he could escape. The closing of the hunting ground caused a commotion, especially the Ninth Order cultivator who was originally in first place. At this moment, he was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. If the hunting ground had closed 10 breaths earlier, he would have been at the top of the hunter list and would have been rewarded with a Grade A Spring Spirit and 9 Golden Spirit lots. But because of this difference of 10 breaths, he missed out on a Grade A Spring Spirit. How could he not be angry? He only felt that the heavens were blind. What was the point of letting a person who was bound to die become the top of the hunter list? Many golden lights fell from the sky and landed on the Ninth Order cultivators present, including Lu Yi. The golden light fell on the back of his hand and formed a mark. This was a reward from heaven's will. At the same time, Lu Yi understood that with this golden mark, he could exchange it for the reward he deserved in the Heaven's Will Treasure House. It turned out that this was how Heaven's Will Treasure House rewarded him. He thought that it would directly give him all kinds of benefits, but now it seemed that he would need to go to the Heaven's Will Treasure House himself. This was more reasonable. After all, there would always be some people who would not be able to receive the rewards from Heaven's will at this time. When he was free and convenient, he could go and get his reward. But it was also because of this that many Myriad Demon Ridge Masters felt helpless. After the golden body token disappeared, Lu Yi would die without a doubt, and the reward for being at the top of the hunter list would naturally disappear with him. It was a pity. As for keeping him alive for the time being and waiting for him to take out the reward, that was even more impossible. After Lu Ye's torment just now, even the Myriad Demon Ridge cultivators would dare to keep him alive. They were all waiting for the golden body token to disappear. Chapter 5:34. Like a dying fish, on the scorched earth, Lu Yi gulped and coughed from time to time. After a while, he finally recovered some strength. Looking around, he saw the angry and fearful faces of the Ninth Order cultivators. Lu Yi, you really deserve to die. Wei Kei's voice rang out as he gritted his teeth. Lu Yi followed the voice and saw that he was in a sorry state. Some of his hair seemed to have been burnt by the fire, making him look extremely comical. Wei Kei was also unlucky. He was swept away by the aftermath of the Fire Phoenix Spirit Rune. Although he wasn't injured, the shock was real. Fortunately, he wasn't in the path of the Fire Phoenix Spirit Rune. Otherwise, even if he didn't die, he would have been seriously injured. Lu Yi coughed violently again and forced himself to sit up. The blood that seeped out of his body gathered into a dark red pool below him. To be honest, I've been reading books recently. I've been switching sources and reading aloud. Both Android and Apple works. Looking at Wei Kei indifferently, Lu Yi said, "You really want to kill me?" Wei Kei coldly snorted, "Do you think you can still live?" "Seduso, CC starter." Lu Yi didn't say anything. Wei Kei continued, "Grand Sky Alliance seems to have some masters lurking around to save you. But with the current situation, do they dare to come? You're dead. Don't have any more fantasies." "Is that so?" Lu Yi lowered his head. The long hair in front of his forehead formed a shadow under the sunlight, blocking his eyes. He raised his hand and tapped on the battlefield mark, sending a message to Li Baxin, "Fourth senior brother, there's no need to save me. I'll leave first. Let's meet again in a month." 20 miles away, Li Baxin, who was paying attention to the situation, immediately received the message. After checking, his expression became surprised. If only looking at the first half of the sentence, his junior brother was already prepared to die. But with the last sentence, it was different. The reason why they agreed to meet again in a month was because there was a 1-month restriction after leaving the Cloud River battlefield. During this 1 month, cultivators couldn't enter the Cloud River battlefield. This was the rule of Heaven's secret. No one could change it. So, the meaning behind Lu Ye's words was obvious. He was leaving the Cloud River battlefield. "Junior brother, what are your plans?" Li Baxin quickly asked. Soon, Lu Ye's message arrived. "Senior brother, the only thing that restricted me was the hunting ground. Now, the hunting ground is closed." Li Baxin was slightly startled, but then he suddenly realized that he had been worried about Lu Ye's safety all this time. He had been thinking of ways to contact people to rescue Lu Yi, causing him to become a little muddle-headed. That's right, all this while, the only thing that restricted little junior brother was the hunting ground. Now that the hunting ground was closed, who could restrict him? Those guys from the Myriad Demons Ridge thought that they could kill Lu Yi at will after the effect of the golden body token disappeared. They didn't know that Lu Yi could leave at any time without the restriction of the hunting ground. The price he had to pay was rather high. Moreover, not everyone could imitate this method. But no matter how great the price was, it was nothing compared to his life. As for whether Lu Yi had the qualifications, Li Baxin did not doubt his junior brother's qualifications. If even his junior brother did not have such qualifications, then no one else in the entire Cloud River battlefield could. His little junior brother was someone who had bought 2 aperture replenishing pills, which were worth 150,000 merit points each for him. Among cultivators in the same realm, there were very few people who had more capital than his junior brother. Moreover, he had just killed so many Myriad Demons Ridge cultivators in one fell swoop, earning him nearly 10,000 merit points. Retreat. Thinking so, Li Baxin immediately called out to Feng Yuechan. Feng Yuechan was extremely surprised. "Senior brother, are we not going to care about junior brother Lu? Junior brother has his own way of escaping. Don't worry about him." The tension and worry in Li Baxin's heart were swept away, and he felt indescribably relaxed. Feng Yuechan was surprised, but soon she seemed to remember something. "Junior brother Lu wants to use that method to leave the Cloud River battlefield?" Li Baxin nodded. "That's right." Feng Yuechan suddenly sighed. "Junior brother Lu is really rich. No wonder his cultivation speed is so fast." As the two spoke, they quickly left. At the same time, Li Baxin didn't forget to send a message to the 9th Order helpers he had invited, telling them not to act anymore. On the scorched earth, after Lu Yi contacted Li Baxin, he began to contact Xia Qianqian. He didn't know Wei Kei's name or which sect he came from, but Xia Qianqian should know. A moment later, he received Xia Qianqian's reply. "Cloud Sun Sect Wei Kei?" Lu Yi raised his head and gave Wei Kei a deep look. When their eyes met, Wei Kei frowned. He could see some ill intentions in Lu Ye's eyes. However, in the current situation, he was not afraid of Lu Ye. Based on Lu Ye's current situation, it would be difficult for him to even stand up. It would be impossible for him to use such a shocking method like before. Does everyone want to kill me? Lu Ye looked around. Someone shouted in a low voice, "What nonsense are you spouting? When the golden body token expires, you'll die. You'd better pray that the golden body token lasts longer so you can live a little longer." Lu Ye sighed. That's possible. With his hands on his knees, Lu Ye slowly stood up and staggered slightly. I'll have to disappoint everyone. Someone else sneered. Lu Ye, you've already reached this point. Why are you still trying to be mysterious? Without the golden body token, you would have died hundreds of times already, yet you're still in the mood to talk nonsense here. If I were you, I would quickly dig a hole, otherwise no one will come to bury you. That's true. Lu Ye nodded. Without the golden body token, I would have died hundreds of times already, but who told me to have the golden body token? His voice gradually became louder. This Lu will remember everyone's blessings today, and if there is a chance in the future, I will definitely repay you. Such shameless boasting angered everyone, thinking that Lu Ye had lost his mind and didn't understand the situation. He might not even survive today, so what was the point of talking about the future? Just as they were thinking this, Lu Ye suddenly looked up at the sky, raised his hand and shouted, Blue Blood Sect's disciple Lu Ye respectfully requests Heaven's Secret to bestow upon me the Heaven's Secret Pillar. As soon as he finished speaking, an extremely dazzling blue light suddenly bloomed from the back of his hand. The blue light shot straight into the sky, triggering Heaven's Secret. As soon as Lu Ye finished speaking, the expressions of the surrounding myriad demons' ridge cultivators all changed greatly, especially a few who suddenly had a look of realization. From the beginning, they vaguely felt that they had overlooked something, but first, the Fire Phoenix Spirit tattoo was intimidating, and then there was the huge bounty on Lu Ye's head, so they didn't have time to think about it. It was only now that they finally reacted. That's right, Lu Ye could ask for the Heaven's Secret Pillar. And this was the only way he could escape with his life. The Heaven's Secret Pillar was bestowed by Heaven's Secret. Generally speaking, each Heaven's Secret business alliance had its own Heaven's Secret Pillar, as did each of the major sects and the encampments of the Spirit Stream battlefield. These were all free of charge. However, there were also some Heaven's Secret Pillars that had to be paid a price. For example, the Heaven's Secret Pillars in some of the spiritual lands in the Cloud River battlefield. These Heaven's Secret Pillars weren't born with the spiritual lands, but were instead invited by cultivators. This was because cultivators could use the Heaven's Secret Pillars to travel between the Cloud River battlefield and their own sections. If a Heaven's Secret Pillar was invited from a spiritual land, it would be much more convenient for cultivators to do things. They could use the Heaven's Secret Pillar to enter the Heaven's Secret Treasure Vault to buy things, and even if they encountered danger that they couldn't resist, they could use the Heaven's Secret Pillar to return to the 9 states to take refuge. However, looking at the entire Cloud River battlefield, there weren't many spiritual lands that had Heaven's Secret Pillars, and only a few large spiritual lands had them. This was because the price to invite a Heaven's Secret Pillar was very high, 100,000 merit points. It was very difficult for a few cultivators to gather such a huge amount of merit points, especially Cloud River tier cultivators. Normally, if they had some merit points, they would go to the Heaven's Secret Business Alliance to auction spirit lots to raise their cultivation. At most, they would keep some for backup. No one would be too rich. Only large spiritual lands with more people had the capital to invite a Heaven's Secret Pillar. The cost of the merit points would be split equally between everyone, so the cost wouldn't be too high. This was also the reason why Feng Yuechan sighed at Lu Ye's wealth when she learned of his plan. A single person with 100,000 merit points. Looking at the entire Cloud River battlefield, one couldn't find more than 5 people with 100,000 merit points, and Lu Ye happened to be one of them. Before the hunting ground opened, he had 92,250 merit points. Now, he had 106,120 merit points. This number was 30,000 more merit points than when he had first entered the Cloudy River battlefield. It was all thanks to the Fire Phoenix Spirit pattern. Otherwise, he would still be a bit away from 100,000 merit points. With enough merit points, he would have the qualifications to invite Heaven's Secret to bestow him a Heaven's Secret pillar. Just as he had said to Li Baxin, the hunting ground had always been the limiting factor. The hunting ground's blood-red light shrouded the entire area. Inside the hunting ground, one could only enter and not leave. Thus, while the hunting ground was open, it was useless even if he invited a Heaven's Secret pillar. However, the hunting ground was now closed. If he wanted to leave, no one could stop him. As Lu Ye's voice fell, the surrounding myriad demons' ridge cultivators finally understood his plan. Xia Liang angrily shouted, "Quickly stop him!" As soon as he finished speaking, he slashed his saber towards Lu Yi. A dazzling saber light filled the air. The attack of a Ninth Order master was extremely powerful. They had paid a great price to finally trap Lu Yi here. Now, they only needed to wait for the golden body token's effect to disappear before they could kill him. However, just as they were about to reap the fruits of victory, Lu Yi actually wanted to invite a Heaven's Secret pillar? How could they agree to this? If he really invited a Heaven's Secret pillar and used it to escape the Cloud River battlefield, then all their previous efforts would have been in vain. Because of this, all those who had died would have died in vain. When this matter spread out, they would become the laughingstock of Grand Heaven Alliance. What a rich guy! 100,000 merit points. Xia Liang had never accumulated so many merit points in his life. As his voice fell, a series of attacks flew towards Lu Yi from all directions. At the same time, a pillar of light descended from the sky and wrapped around Lu Yi. Many attacks were blocked by the pillar of light. Within the pillar of light, Lu Yi coldly looked around, as if he wanted to remember the faces of these Ninth Order masters. Chapter 5:35. The pillar of light soared into the sky and wrapped around Lu Yi. A powerful airflow surged, causing his hair and clothes to flutter in the wind. Attacks came from all directions, but they were all blocked by the pillar of light. Asterisk Hong. Asterisk something fell from the sky and landed in front of Lu Yi. In an instant, a violent shockwave swept out from where Lu Yi was standing. The surrounding myriad demon ridge cultivators were thrown off their feet by the impact. The group of people stabilized themselves with great difficulty. When they looked up again, they saw that Lu Yi had already raised his hand and pressed against the Heaven's Fate pillar in front of him. "Until we meet again." As soon as he finished speaking, his figure quickly faded and disappeared. All the myriad demon ridge cultivators stared at him. No matter how unwilling they were, there was nothing they could do. In the end, Lu Yi escaped. This time, there were at least 800 myriad demons ridge cultivators participating in the hunt for Lu Yi. There were no less than 29th Order cultivators. With such a large lineup, not to mention a 3rd Order Cloud River Realm cultivator, even a true Lake Realm cultivator would be able to put up a fight. But in the end, they still failed. The rare golden body token, the vermilion bird, one of the 4 symbols divine beasts, which had the power to destroy heaven and earth, and the Heaven's Fate pillar was summoned by Lu Yi alone. Any one of these things was enough to shock anyone, but they all appeared on one person. But it was precisely because of these incredible things that Lu Yi, a 3rd Order cultivator, was able to escape in the end. Looking at the Heaven's Fate pillar descending from the sky, the group of 9th Order cultivators had ugly expressions. The hunting ground was closed, and Lu Yi had escaped. It was meaningless to blame the heavens and others. After a while, many myriad demon ridge cultivators dispersed, leaving behind only the Heaven's Fate pillar, which recorded all the previous events. With just a 3rd Order cultivation, Lu Yi fought against nearly 1,000 myriad demon ridge cultivators, including many 8th and 9th Order cultivators, and still managed to escape. It was foreseeable that after this battle, Lu Yi's name would spread far and wide. In the future, when he entered the Cloud River battlefield again, there would be many people watching him. In the divine secret palace of the Ao Mountain of the military province, Lu Yi's blood-stained figure suddenly appeared. He staggered slightly and hurriedly raised his hand to support the divine secret pillar in front of him so that he would not fall down. When cultivators entered the Cloudy River battlefield from their sect, They had many choices. They could choose the location they wanted to enter, as long as that location was connected to the Tianji pillar. However, if one wanted to return from the Cloud River battlefield, they could only return to their sect's Heaven's Secret Palace. There was no other choice. This was related to the mark on the back of a cultivator's hand. Find second senior sister. He ordered softly. He immediately flashed out of Hu Po's body and ran outside. A moment later, Shui Yuan's figure rushed into Divine Secret Hall and saw Lu Ye's miserable appearance at a glance, causing her brow to furrow. How did you end up like this? It's a long story. Lu Yi squeezed out a smile at her, forcefully clinging onto his last shred of clarity. Senior sister, save me. As soon as his voice fell, his body went limp and fell to the ground. Even though he was now a third-order Cloud River Realm cultivator, the aftereffects of using the Fire Phoenix Spirit rune were still somewhat unbearable. When he was still in the Cloudy River battlefield, he did not dare to pass out. Now that he had returned to his sect, his mind relaxed and he could no longer hold on. Shui Yuan's eyes were sharp and her hands were quick, supporting him in one go. Lu Ye's consciousness drifted in and out of consciousness. Boundless exhaustion constantly assaulted every part of his body. There were several times when he felt as if he was in a dream, and Louis even heard the sect leader's gentle voice. After an unknown amount of time, he suddenly woke up from his coma. The faint sound of water ripples entered his ears. Louis opened his eyes and was slightly dazed for a moment before slowly coming back to his senses. He was currently sitting in a bathtub filled with a green medicinal liquid. Hu Po was swimming in front of him with a satisfied expression. As if he sensed Lu Ye's gaze, Hu Po looked up and let out a whimper. Hearing the movement, he flashed in and said in surprise, "Lu Yi, you're awake?" Lu Yi nodded and checked his condition. Very good, his injuries were completely healed. Even the internal injuries that had accumulated during this period had disappeared without a trace. Obviously, it was due to Shui Yuan's help. His body was still weak and there was not much spirit energy left in it. However, this was not a big problem. He just needed to rest for a day or two. How long have I been asleep? 2 days. Lu Yi nodded. Second senior sister was indeed worthy of being called second senior sister. Her attainments in medical skills were much better than Hua Xi's. Back then, when he first used the Fire Phoenix Spirit mark in the Myriad Poison Forest, Hua Xi had treated him for many days before he slowly recovered. However, his second senior sister only needed 2 days to fully recover. He lowered his head and checked his battlefield mark. Lu Yi. Identity, Blue Blood Sect Disciple. Cultivation, Third Order Cloud River Realm. Location, War Province's Ao Mountain. Merit, 6,120 points. Battle points, 56 points. More than 100,000 merit points were suddenly reduced to a fraction. The price of requesting the Heaven's Fate Pillar was too high. Besides the time when he spent a huge sum of merit points to buy the Restoring Aperture Pill for fourth senior brother, this was the second time he had spent so much. However, the Restoring Aperture Pill could at least help his fourth senior brother repair his spirit aperture. The Heaven's Fate Pillar could only help him escape back to the 9 provinces. The Heaven's Fate Pillar could not be taken away. It would stay where it was. This time, if not for the fact that he had no other choice, Lu Yi would not have requested the Heaven's Fate Pillar. 100,000 merit points could buy a lot of things in the Heaven's Fate Treasure House. While he was checking, Shui Yuan walked in and asked casually, "How are you feeling?" "I'm fine." "Good. Since you're back, stay in the sect and recuperate. Don't run around." Shui Yuan had heard about Lu Ye's experience in the Cloud River battlefield from Yi. She was angry at the myriad Demon Ridge cultivators for bullying the weak, but she also felt sorry for her junior brother. However, she was only at the Spirit Sea realm, so she could not help Lu Yi. When Lu Yi was in the Spirit Stream battlefield, she could force her way in and help him, but she could not enter the Cloud River battlefield. He stepped forward and checked Lu Ye's condition. After confirming that he was really fine, he felt relieved. Second senior sister. I'm going to put on my clothes. I took off your clothes. What haven't I seen before? Shui Yuan rolled her eyes at him and walked out the door. Lu Yi was embarrassed. A moment later, a neatly dressed Lu Yi walked out of the room. The dazzling sunlight made him squint slightly. The chirping of birds and insects lingered in his ears, and the fragrance of flowers filled his nose. He stretched and felt that such a peaceful day was really comfortable. He called Yi and bowed to the sect master to listen to his teachings. When he walked out of the sect master's room, he smelled a mouth-watering fragrance. He followed the fragrance to the food hall. As expected, his second senior sister had already prepared a table full of delicious food. Compared to the food Hua Ci made, his second senior sister's cooking was undoubtedly 100 times better. However, although Hua Ci's food did not look good, its effects were not bad. As long as one's mind was strong enough, there was no psychological barrier to eating it. After stuffing himself with food, he bid farewell to Shui Yuan and flew straight to the Green Bamboo Peak. Green Bamboo Peak was Lu Ye's spirit mountain in the Blue Blood sect. He was also the peak master of Green Bamboo Peak. When he had reached the Cloud River realm, Shui Yuan had asked him to choose a spirit mountain, and Yi had chosen Green Bamboo Peak. This spirit mountain was not far from the Guardian Peak. He had asked many of his junior brothers and sisters to help build it. However, not long after reaching the Cloud River realm, Lu Yi entered the Cloud River battlefield, so he did not spend much time at Green Bamboo Peak. Now that he arrived, he could see the pavilions on the Spirit Mountain from afar. A sea of clouds rolled over the Spirit Mountain, and it was quite a celestial scene. After landing on the Spirit Mountain, he casually found a bedchamber and walked in, meditating in peace. Right now, the Blue Blood sect was not very lively. This was because the cultivation level of the Blue Blood sect disciples was generally low. Aside from him and Giant Armor, everyone else was at the Spirit Stream tier. Thus, they basically stayed at the Spirit Stream battlefield to cultivate, and very rarely returned to the sect. However, when the cultivation level of the disciples gradually increased in the future, the sect would definitely slowly become lively. Thinking about it, Hua Ci should be about to reach the Cloud River tier. He silently swallowed a spirit pill, meditated, and recovered. One day later, Lu Yi flew out of Green Bamboo Peak, full of energy. He first went to the Moon Lake to catch a few fish, and then came to the Guardian Peak. He found Shui Yuan, and said, "Senior sister, I want to enter the Spirit Stream battlefield." Shui Yuan asked curiously, "Why are you entering the Spirit Stream battlefield?" Cloud River Realm cultivators had to pay some merit points to enter the Spirit Stream battlefield. The higher their cultivation, the more merit points they had to pay. Take Shui Yuan's previous actions as an example. She had spent thousands of merit points to enter the Spirit Stream battlefield. Revenge. When he left the Cloud River battlefield, Lu Yi had told the Myriad Demons Ridge cultivators that he would return today's favor 100-fold in the future. The Myriad Demons Ridge cultivators only thought that he was just saying it. After all, anyone who had suffered such a big loss and was almost killed would definitely not let it go. However, Lu Yi was obviously not just saying it. He had long since made up his mind to go to the Spirit Stream battlefield to cause trouble. He might not be able to defeat those Cloud River Realm 8th or 9th Order cultivators, but he could defeat those Spirit Stream Realm cultivators. If others bullied the weak to deal with him, then he would also bully the weak. With his identity as the Spirit Stream Overlord, who in the Spirit Stream realm could be his opponent. Without asking for anything else, he would get back the 100,000 merit points and the golden body token he had lost in the Spirit Stream battlefield no matter what. Shui Yuan immediately understood what Lu Yi was planning. She frowned and tried to persuade him, "Little junior brother, high-level cultivators can't do whatever they want in the Spirit Stream battlefield. Even if you are stronger than them, if you kill someone, you will be punished by the heavens. This is a kind of protection the heavens give to low-level cultivators." "I know, so I want to ask senior sister how you resisted the soul-extinguishing divine thunder." Lu Yeo remembered the first time he saw Shui Yuan. She held an exaggerated war scythe in her hands as she slaughtered in all directions, protecting him from harm. The terrifying soul-extinguishing divine thunder lingered around her, but her expression didn't change at all. No matter how much time had passed, Lu Yi would always feel a trace of warmth in his heart whenever he recalled that smile. Chapter 5:36. The soul-extinguishing lightning was a punishment from heaven, and there was no way to avoid it. Therefore, Lu Yi wanted to know how his second senior sister had managed to block it. As long as he could solve this problem, he would be able to do whatever he wanted in the spirit stream battlefield. Shui Yuan shook her head. I can't resist it, I can only endure it. After a pause, she continued, my situation is special, you should know. She raised her hand to cover her chest. Since I was born, there has been another me inside my body. It is the Wei Yang that you have met before. However, she rarely shows herself. She only shows herself when I lose control of my emotions. Lu Yi nodded. When he first came to the Blue Blood sect, he did not know about this. When he first saw Shui Yuan, he felt that his eldest senior sister and second senior sister looked alike. But in comparison, his second senior sister was a miniature version of his eldest senior sister. At that time, he thought that these two senior sisters were biological sisters. However, after spending a few years together, Lu Yi had deduced some things from some clues. Therefore, he was not surprised to hear Shui Yuan say it herself. She is very special, her endurance is extremely high, so even if she killed some people in the spirit stream battlefield, the soul-extinguishing lightning did not affect her too much. Of course, she has her own limits, and once she exceeds them, she will not be able to bear it, Shui Yuan continued. She has fought twice in the spirit stream battlefield before, and each time she returned, she would immediately fall into a deep sleep. The soul-extinguishing lightning targeted her, so it did not affect me. The two times Wei Yang had fought, once on Golden Light Peak, and once after Lu Yi was poisoned in Heaven Expanse sect. After entering the spirit stream battlefield, the more people you kill, the more powerful the soul-extinguishing lightning will be. Correspondingly, it will last longer. So, little junior brother, if you enter the spirit stream battlefield, it is best not to kill too many people. Although I have never experienced the soul-extinguishing lightning's power, it is not something to be trifled with. If something goes wrong, it may cause damage to your spirit. If that happens, things will become troublesome. Is there no other way? Lu Yi was unwilling to give up. Shui Yuan shook her head. This is heaven's punishment. I know. Seeing the look on his face, Shui Yuan could tell that Lu Yi was unwilling to give up, and that he would definitely have to go to the spirit stream battlefield. No matter what you do, she said, you have to protect yourself. Don't take any risks. After leaving Shui Yuan's place, Lu Yi felt somewhat depressed. If he couldn't kill too many people in the spirit stream battlefield, then he would definitely be restricted. Perhaps, he could bring Little Gray with him. When the time came, he would break the array and let Little Gray kill them. He just did not know if Little Gray was at the encampment. The last time he had left the spirit stream battlefield, he had already set Little Gray free. It had been guarding an empty encampment for so many years only because of the last instructions of its dead senior brother. Xiao Hui could be considered to be loyal and righteous. No matter what, he would have to enter the spirit stream battlefield first. If he really couldn't do it, then he would have to kill as few people as possible. Lu Yi walked into the Heavenly Fate Hall and placed his hand on the Heavenly Fate pillar. After some investigation, he realized that he could not enter the Cloudy River battlefield. It seemed that he would have to wait for a month to pass. He could enter the Spirit Stream battlefield, but according to the feedback from the Heaven's Fate Pillar, with his current cultivation base, he would have to pay a deduction of 500 merit points. That was not much. With a thought, Lu Yi immediately disappeared and appeared in the Blue Blood sect's encampment. An inexplicable force suddenly descended and Lu Yi felt that his spirit energy was greatly suppressed. The river of spirit energy that had been flowing endlessly in his body also stopped circulating. His third-order Cloud River realm cultivation rapidly fell as all his spirit energy stagnated in his spirit aperture. He understood that this was the suppression of the Heavenly Fate Pillar. Any cultivator with a cultivation base higher than the spirit stream stage would be suppressed to the point where their cultivation base would be reduced to the highest level of the spirit stream stage. He tried to circulate the spirit energy in his spirit aperture according to the great sun-colored glass secret arts route. Soon, the suppressed spirit energy began circulating and his cultivation base slowly recovered. First order, second order, third order, until he reached the ninth heaven realm. While he was recovering his strength, the nearby disciples also noticed him and someone exclaimed, "Is that fifth senior brother?" They almost suspected that their eyes were playing tricks on them. Their fifth senior brother had already broken through to the Cloud River realm and left the Spirit Stream battlefield. So how could he suddenly appear here? They rubbed their eyes to make sure they weren't playing tricks on them. It really was their fifth senior brother. Hearing the shout, the others also looked in the direction of the voice. For a moment, the greetings were endless. Soon, the news of Lu Ye's appearance spread. After a short while, on the spirit peak where Xiao Hui was, Lu Yi looked at the empty eagle nest and felt a little helpless. Xiao Hui didn't seem to be in the encampment, which destroyed his original plan of bringing Xiao Hui to kill people. Someone flew over on a flying spirit artifact and landed beside Lu Yi, bowing respectfully, "Greetings, fifth senior brother." Lu Yi turned his head and found that this person looked familiar. He should be one of the first cultivators to join the Blue Blood sect, but he couldn't remember his name at the moment. "You're Tao Zhengyu, the current garrison envoy." The garrison envoy and deputy envoy of the Blue Blood sect's encampment had been replaced several times already. The main reason was that there was now an abundance of cultivation resources and the world energy in the encampment was rich, so the disciples' cultivation speed was very fast. They were located in the outermost circle of the battlefield and generally had to leave after reaching the 8th order, so whether it was the garrison envoy or deputy envoy, they couldn't stay for too long. In this regard, they were inferior to the inner and core circles. The garrison envoys and deputy envoys of the inner and core circles could stay longer. Lu Yi nodded and asked again, "What about Xiao Hui?" "I'm not sure. He is rarely in the encampment now. Sometimes he will come back, but generally he won't stay for long." Tao Zhengyu replied while observing Lu Ye's expression. He didn't know why Lu Yi suddenly appeared in the Spirit Stream battlefield, but after reflecting on his actions after taking over as the garrison envoy, he didn't seem to have made any mistakes, so he asked cautiously, "Is there something fifth senior brother needs to do here?" "There is something." Lu Yi replied casually, then stood in place and pondered. Xiao Hui had disappeared without a trace, and it wasn't realistic to look for him right now. Without Xiao Hui, he wouldn't be able to kill too many people. Without killing people, the sects of the Myriad Demon Ridge wouldn't be too afraid of him. How was he going to get back the 100,000 merit points and golden body tokens he had lost? Or was he just going to break through their arrays to vent his anger? With his current attainments in the Tao of array formations, the great arrays of the Myriad Demon Ridge sects wouldn't be able to stop him. If he just wanted to break through their arrays to vent his anger, there wouldn't be enough benefits, so there wasn't much point in doing so. This left Lu Yi in a dilemma. Sure enough, some things wouldn't be as smooth as he thought. There would always be many twists and turns. Since Lu Yi didn't speak, Tao Zhengyu could only stand to the side, feeling the pressure. After a long time, Lu Yi said, "Forget it. Come with me and we'll get whatever we can." No matter what, once he took action this time, he would definitely alarm all the sects of the Myriad Demon Ridge. Who wouldn't be afraid of the return of the exterminating sect Leaf? Under the premise that he couldn't kill too many people, Lu Yi estimated that he would only be able to take down 1 or 2 sects at most. Bringing along his own guardian would be a good opportunity to plunder the blessings of other sects' heaven's fate pillars. Summoning his own flight-type spirit artifact, Lu Yi took Tao Zhengyu and soared into the sky. Tao Zhengyu was confused. He had no idea what Lu Yi was going to do, but he didn't ask much and could only follow silently. The journey forward was calm and peaceful. From the outermost ring of the battlefield to the core, it was a long journey. If Lu Yi could exert the strength of a third-order Cloud River Realm cultivator, it wouldn't take him 2 or 3 days, but right now he could only exert the strength of Tianjiu, so the journey would take twice as long. Fortunately, his current flight-type spirit artifact was a mid-rank spirit artifact, which was faster than a low-rank spirit artifact. The only drawback was that it consumed a lot of spirit qi. There was little rest along the way, and Tao Jingyu had a profound understanding of his fifth senior brother's terrifying heritage. Generally speaking, it would be difficult for a cultivator to replenish their spirit qi after flying for a long time, but his fifth senior brother was always on the move except for an hour of rest every day. In just 4 days, the two arrived at the core. Lu Yi took out the map of the Spirit Stream battlefield and checked it, making a choice between New Moon Sect and Cloud Sun Sect. New Moon Sect was Tanxing's sect. Lu Yi had confirmed this when he chatted with Li Baxin before, while Cloud Sun Sect was Wei Kei's sect. Both sects were in the core, so Lu Yi wasn't unfamiliar with them. After all, he had received safety money from them before, so even if he didn't have any dealings with them, he had at least heard of them. Since he could only take 1 or 2 sects, he naturally had to choose carefully. In the end, he decided to take action against New Moon Sect. The reason why he was imprisoned in the hunting ground, forced to use the golden body token, and spent 100,000 merit points to invite the Heaven's Fate Pillar, was because Tan Xing used the tracking disc. It could be said that the source of his pursuit was Tan Xing. Every injustice had its perpetrator, and every debt had its debtor, so he naturally had to make up for his losses with New Moon Sect. After flying for another half a day, they finally arrived 10 kilometers away from New Moon Sect's station. Lu Yi pressed down on the flight-type spirit artifact, grabbed Hupe, and threw it to Tao Jingyu. "Wait here." Tao Jingyu took Hupe, nodded, and stood in place obediently. Lu Yi rushed straight to New Moon Sect's station. He would definitely have to fight with New Moon Sect's cultivators this time, so it would be inconvenient to bring Tao Jingyu, a 7th-order cultivator. Leaving him here, with Hupe and Yi guarding him, he wouldn't have to worry about his safety. 10 kilometers was covered in the blink of an eye. In New Moon Sect Station, the light curtain of the protective array was like an inverted bowl. The light curtain wasn't thick, and it could be seen that the protective array's power hadn't been activated too much. Under normal circumstances, no one would always think of attacking someone else's station. Except for Blue Blood Sect's Lu Yi. When he was at the Spirit Stream battlefield, he stirred up chaos. Now that he had broken through to the Cloud River realm, the people of Myriad Demon Ridge could finally live a comfortable life. However, no one expected that in less than 3 months, the God of Plague would actually come back. Chapter 537. Outside New Moon Sect's station, Lu Yi landed and activated his Insight Spirit inscriptions to observe the nodes of the spirit array. Immediately, a cultivator in charge of guarding the place noticed his presence and flew over. He looked at him from across the great formation and shouted in a low voice, "Who are you?" A sneaky figure had suddenly appeared outside their spirit array, seemingly harboring evil intentions, so he naturally wouldn't be polite. Lu Yi glanced at him indifferently. "Who do you think I look like?" This question stunned the cultivator, but when he took a closer look, he suddenly felt that this person looked familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. But he was sure that he had never seen this person before, so he couldn't remember where this inexplicable sense of familiarity came from. Just as he was about to ask again, Lu Yi had already found the location of the nodes and arrived there in a flash, throwing out array flags one after another. If he could use his 3rd-order Cloud River realm cultivation, Lu Yi estimated that he could break through the spirit array with brute force. After all, the power of the spirit array had not been fully activated and was only operating at its most basic level. But under the premise that he could only use Tianjiu's strength, brute force was unrealistic, so it was better to sneak in. "What are you doing?" Seeing Lu Yi's actions, the cultivator asked again. Lu Yi didn't speak, but his hands didn't stop moving. The cultivator's expression changed, and he carefully looked at Lu Yi again, finally remembering why he felt that this person's face was familiar. He had never seen Lu Yi in person, but he had seen a portrait of him. However, Lu Yi had left the Spirit Stream battlefield for nearly 3 months, so he didn't expect that he would appear here again, much less outside his own station. "You're the sect exterminating leaf," the cultivator exclaimed as he stumbled back, as if Lu Yi was some kind of scourge that he couldn't avoid. Then, he turned around, summoned his spirit artifact, and flew into the station, shouting as he flew, "The sect exterminating leaf is here. The sect exterminating leaf is here. Disaster was imminent, and the sect exterminating leaf was here. Their station was probably going to be destroyed. His shouts alarmed many New Moon sect cultivators, and they were all shocked. An angry roar sounded, "Who's talking nonsense?" As the voice sounded, a burly man flew over on his artifact. "Senior brother Lei Feng, the sect exterminating leaf is here." When the cultivator who had just escaped saw him, he quickly reported. Lei Feng was the guardian of the New Moon sect's outpost, and was currently ranked 58th on the Spirit Stream list. It could be said that he was the most powerful cultivator in the New Moon sect's outpost. "Who's here?" Frowning, he wondered if he had heard wrongly. "The sect exterminating leaf, sex Luye." "Bullshit," he scolded. "That bastard advanced to Cloud River 3 months ago. He should be in the Cloud River battlefield right now. Why would he come here?" "Senior brother, eyes, sex cultivator leafy. Sect exterminating leaf sect." Layden's brows furrowed. "Perhaps someone looks a lot like Yi the Destroyer? Yi, sect, and sect. But he's breaking the formation." "Formation Yi," Lei Feng was shocked. At this moment, the jade pendant that controlled the defensive array moved. Before he could take it out to check, he saw a streak of light rush over from the distance, arriving nearby in the blink of an eye. Lei Feng looked over and couldn't help but gasp. It really was the sect exterminating leaf. Speaking of which, he had interacted with Lu Ye before. Back when New Moon sect had trapped Lu Ye on the outskirts of the 10,000 Poisons forest, they had also participated. At that time, Lei Feng had led a few disciples. Thus, he had seen Lu Ye before. Of course, Lu Ye definitely had no impression of him, because there were too many cultivators from the 10,000 Demons Ridge who had made things difficult for him. Who could remember clearly? Why had the sect exterminating leaf returned to the Spirit Stream battlefield, and why had he come to their station? Lei Feng's mind was filled with questions. Although his expression was serious, he didn't panic. If Lu Ye's cultivation was still at the 9 Heavens tier, he would be nervous. However, Lu Ye had entered the Spirit Stream battlefield with a Cloud River tier cultivation, so there was no need for him to be nervous. Lei Feng definitely couldn't defeat him. Lu Ye's many terrifying achievements in the Spirit Stream battlefield were in front of him, so Lei Feng knew his own limits. But so what? Did Lu Ye dare to kill? The punishment of Heaven's secret was no joke. If high-level cultivators could really kill as they pleased in the Spirit Stream battlefield, then the stations of the various large sects would have been flattened long ago. Now, the question was, what was this guy doing here? Lei Feng was certain that Lu Ye didn't come with good intentions. After all, they weren't on the same side. To the various large sects of the 10,000 Demons Ridge, Lu Ye carried a blood feud. 2 years ago, who knew how many cultivators from the 10,000 Demons Ridge had died at his hands? It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he killed people like flies. With this thought, Lei Feng took a few steps forward and looked at Lu Ye with a serious expression. "Fellow cultivator Lu, why did you come to New Moon Sect's station instead of making a fortune in the Cloud River battlefield?" "Tan Xing, is he from New Moon Sect?" Lu Ye asked indifferently, his hand on the hilt of his saber. Lei Feng frowned when he heard this. "He is my elder brother. What advice does fellow cultivator Lu have for me?" "You're Tan Xing's younger brother?" Lu Ye raised his eyebrows. This was an unexpected gain. "Very good." Lu Ye nodded. "Tan Xing took good care of me on the Cloud River battlefield. Today, I've come to repay his kindness." When the last word fell, Lu Ye had already left behind an afterimage, pouncing straight at the woman. Although Lei Feng had been on guard, he clearly hadn't expected Lu Ye to be so decisive. This was completely different from what he had imagined. In his mind, Lu Ye, a Cloud River tier cultivator, wouldn't dare to kill indiscriminately in the Spirit Stream battlefield. Otherwise, the soul-extinguishing divine lightning wouldn't be easy to endure. Who would have thought that Lu Ye would really attack? Surrounded by a great sense of danger, Layden hastily summoned a spirit artifact shield and imbued it with his own spirit energy to block in front of him. In the next instant, there was a loud boom, and Lei Feng's entire body was smashed to the ground. The overwhelming power caused his eyes to widen. What shocked him even more was that his spirit tool shield had dimmed under this attack, and its spirituality had been greatly damaged. Lei Feng's cultivation level was Heaven 9, and he was ranked in the 50s on the Spirit Stream battlefield. Even in the Spirit Stream battlefield, he could be considered a powerful cultivator. Lu Ye could only display the cultivation level of Heaven 9, yet he had almost broken through Lei Feng's defenses with a single attack. How terrifying was that? Lei Feng had never truly fought with Lu Ye before. Thus, although he knew that Lu Ye was very powerful, he didn't know exactly how powerful he was. Until now. Senior Brother Tan. The surrounding cultivators of the New Moon sect all cried out in alarm when they saw Lei Feng fall. At the same time, Lei Feng felt another fierce attack coming from his spirit tool shield. With a crashing sound, the 9th limit low-grade defensive spiritual tool was completely shattered, revealing Leiden's panic-stricken face. Lu Ye followed closely behind him, and his mountain-coiling saber slashed horizontally. Lei Feng had no more spirit tools to use now, so he could only forcefully circulate his spiritual power and blood qi to form a protective barrier around his body. The mountain-coiling saber fell, and blood splattered everywhere. Lei Feng fell heavily to the ground, a massive gash on his abdomen. One could almost see his internal organs. Lei Feng's hair stood on end, and he felt as if death had been so close to him. If not for the fact that he was a body cultivator with thick skin and thick flesh, he would definitely have been cut in half by that slash. Lu Ye was slightly surprised to see that Lei Feng was still alive. He sighed with emotion. The physical body of a body cultivator was indeed much stronger than that of cultivators of the same level. Just as he was about to rush over and give Lei Feng another slash, the sound of air being torn apart rang out. How could the cultivators of the New Moon sect hold back when their guardian was attacked? Who cared if he was Lu Ye or Lu Ye? Let's fight first and talk later. There were so many of them, so there was no reason for them to be afraid of one person. In an instant, spells and spirit tools shot out, attacking Lu Ye from all directions. Left with no choice, Lu Ye could only withdraw his killing intent and dodge the attacks. At the same time, the weapon box at his waist buzzed, and 9 spirit tools flew out. The scene was extremely chaotic. Even more cultivators of the New Moon sect were alarmed and rushed over. Beside Lei Feng, a medical cultivator ran over to check on his injuries and treat him. Lei Feng himself shouted angrily, "Lu Ye, you're a Cloud River tier cultivator. Instead of cultivating in the Cloud River battlefield, you came to the Spirit Stream battlefield to show off your strength. Do you really think that the New Moon sect is afraid of you? I know, my brother must have taught you a lesson in the Cloud River battlefield. You're no match for him, so you came here to bully the weak. You're really shameless." When Lu Ye suddenly asked about Tan Sheng, he vaguely guessed in his heart. Although he did not dare to say for sure, he was definitely close to the truth. Otherwise, there was no reason for sect destroying Yi to come to the New Moon sect's base. Following his angry shout, a scream suddenly rang out. The cultivators of the New Moon sect had different levels of cultivation. Although Lu Ye fought against many alone, he had experienced many similar situations since he started cultivating. He had a lot of experience on how to deal with such situations. His figure moved, defended, and attacked with spirit tools. Finally, a cultivator of the New Moon sect was caught off guard and was killed by his spirit tool. Blood and corpses fell from the sky. Lei Feng was furious. "You dare to kill?" He never thought that Lu Ye would really dare to kill someone here. Was he not afraid of being punished by the heavens? After killing one of them, Lu Ye's body suddenly glowed with purple light. If one looked closely, they would see that it was not purple light at all. Instead, it was purple lightning swimming around his body. The soul-destroying divine lightning hit him, and Lu Ye's eyelids twitched. There was no other reason. It was too painful. Since he started cultivating, he had suffered countless injuries, big and small. There were even a few times when he was seriously injured to the point of fainting. However, there had never been an injury that he felt was unbearable. The punishment of the soul-extinguishing divine thunder gave people an unbearable feeling. This kind of pain did not just come from the physical body, but also from the soul. It was as if there were countless ants madly gnawing at his body, making him suffer torturous torture. To be continued. But you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.